Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Council Town Hall. It's going to be a meeting on the railroad quiet zones here in Caldwell. We appreciate everyone being here and your desire to weigh in on the policy before us in the city. This town hall that we're having tonight is to hear your input. To start out with, we ask that you please be respectful to those with differing views and listen quietly and be respectful to everyone else in the room. I would ask also that we refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or other disruptive behaviors. I will warn those with the gavel tap for those that are in violation, and obviously if the meeting were to get out of control, we would call the meeting early and then make an announcement from there. All we're asking is you please be respectful to all those speaking, so council that have taken time out of their week, because this is not a normal night for a council meeting, can hear public comments on this matter. For those that are here, if you wish to speak, please write your name on the sign-in sheet. Is that still out there, or have we collected that? Okay, it's still outside, so please make sure you sign up if you haven't already. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the council. Your remaining time is shown on the clock behind us on the wall. And please keep your comments relevant to the issue. If you can avoid, please repeat comments made by others earlier. You can just simply agree, but you will have 3 minutes. The city clerk will announce when it's your time to wrap up your comments at that time. And tonight's session, just so everyone that isn't aware, will be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then we will have an additional 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow, which is Friday. Like I said, just please make sure we be respectful. We know this is a very hot topic in the city. First up, we're going to have a presentation by our Caldwell Deputy Director of Transportation, Bruce Mills. Would you please come up? Following that, we're going to have another presentation, and then we'll get to the comment period.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens. I'm Bruce Mills, Deputy Public Works Director, and I'm going to keep my presentation short, so I know there's a lot of people that would like to speak. So, briefly, what is a quiet zone? It's an area where you select a number of crossings so that when the trains approach, they no longer blow their horns. However, the gates still will come down, the flashing lights still continue, the bells that you hear, the little ding, 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 those all still occur. So I guess it's not a totally quiet zone. How many of these exist? There are 3 of them currently in Idaho, kind of in the North Panhandle area. And nationwide, there are a little over 1,000 of these at about 5,700, with 5,700 crossings. So how to establish a quiet zone? It's kind of tedious, it's slow, it takes a lot of patience. You determine the size of your quiet zone. You have to design improvements that will mitigate the fact that if the horns are going away, what can you put in place that will keep the safety high for these crossings? And the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA, has very specific requirements that you have to fulfill when you're putting a quiet zone together. They bring out a whole bunch of people. We had, must have been 10, 12 people out here when we went through all the crossings. There were representatives from Union Pacific, their consultants, the FRA, ITD, lots of acronyms. But anyway, a lot of people there when we did that. Then after that, you submit a notice of intent along with plans to FRA and Union Pacific. They review all those plans. If you're still on track, then you submit an application, a formal application to FRA. So all those check marks are things that have been done. So we have received permission, approval from the Federal Railroad Administration and Union Pacific to move forward with the project. So the project was bid, and we did receive a very fortunate low bid for the project. After, if we move forward, the contractor, once they complete their work, then the organizations would come out, make sure everything was done according to plans, and then we would submit a notice of establishment, another roughly 3-week wait period, and then the horns would stop. So our history of the quiet zone, I don't know if it goes back further than this, but this is what I could find in the files. In 2014, we hired Horrocks Engineering to do a study on what it would take to put in a quiet zone. They looked at 6 crossings. They came up with a figure of $1.7 to $2.4 million to build these crossings. I think given that sticker shock, it kind of went on the back burner. In 2024, it was put back in the budget to look at, and that's actually when I came on board with the city, and it was a task I was given to see, can you get this thing moving? See, can you make it work? That's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years, I guess. So the proposed quiet zone in Caldwell is 7 crossings, all the way from 5th Avenue to Ustick Road. 4th Avenue is actually going to be closed off in the next few months, so that will no longer actually be an active railroad crossing. There are about 17 trains per Union Pacific that pass through Caldwell each day, roughly half in the daytime and half in the evening. So how do you mitigate? If you're going to, not blow the horns anymore, how do you keep things safe? So there are different options that FRA has, and so does Union Pacific in their policy manual. One is to put in concrete medians on the approaches that ours would be 18 inches wide, 8 inches high. What that does is it prevents people lined up from driving around the gates, which is the most common accident that occurs at railroad crossings, is people driving around the gate. You also have to close off any driveways that are within 60 feet of the crossing arm. And then you have to install warning signs for both the vehicles, also for pedestrians. You have to make sure if you have any sidewalks that they're up to code and that they have detectable warning devices on them. Sorry, I don't want to get too geeky on it, but anyway. So I know a big question for people is, are quiet zones safe? Because if that horn sounds, if it doesn't sound anymore, are they safe? So the FRA did a study in 2020 of 330 quiet zones, roughly a third of the 1,000 that they have. And they looked at accidents before and after the quiet zone. And they actually found that there's very little difference that they could see before and after. And in fact, the quiet zones that are put in, like the one that we have proposed in Caldwell, they actually saw a 42% reduction in accidents, mainly because of the medians preventing people from driving around the gates. Just to give you an idea, FRA has a computer program that you have to put in all the information about historic accidents, the amount of traffic on the road, all these different factors go into this computer program, and it tells you what the risk index is. So when I did that, the risk index with horns, which is what we have today, was 28,000. Putting in all the improvements that we're looking to do, the risk index actually goes down to 17,000, so quite a bit better. The other thing I want to point out is that even if a quiet zone is established, the train horns can still sound. The engineers still have the ability, if they see any dangerous situation ahead of them, animals, cars, people on the tracks, to still blast their horns. And I've talked to a couple other cities, and yes, they still do it occasionally when it's needed. The benefits of a quiet zone, well, it will significantly reduce the noise to nearby residents and other people. Those horns blow at about 110 decibels. That's the max, but it's a good blast if you're pretty near the tracks. Also, with adding the mitigation features, it actually, I know it can be debated, but actually, according to FRA, makes the crossing safer with the changes that we're proposing. So the cost for a quiet zone, many cities have spent tens of millions of dollars putting in quiet zones. We are fortunate that the one that we proposed that's been approved, and we got a really good bid price, it's The total cost will be about $238,000 for the 7 crossings. As far as maintenance costs ongoing, there are no fees to Union Pacific for the quiet zone, and the maintenance will be very minimal because we're just maintaining the signs we put up and the concrete curbs. So if this moves forward to implementation, it could be in place by as early as June, but it depends. Sometime this summer if we move forward. So what's next, from my understanding, is after we have these workshops, at some point the council will consider whether or not to award that construction contract to implement the quiet zone or not to. And I don't know if, Mayor, if you want me to answer any questions right now, but I'm happy to do that. Oh, I wanted to show you one other thing. Here's the plans for the quiet zone. It's kind of small, but like I just wanted to take Fifth Avenue from an aerial photo. Those yellow marks there are the proposed raised medians for the quiet zone as they approach the railroad tracks. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Bruce, for that. Council, questions? Councilor Denver, I'll go first.
Mr. Mayor, Bruce, thanks for giving the presentation. I appreciate it. Can we go back to the checklist? I think it was slide number 2 or number 3. Oh, you've got the button.
Whoop. Yes.
Okay, so as we're going down through this checklist here, items 1 through 6 were completed successfully. Could you tell me a little bit about the timeline it took us to get us 1 through 6? I mean, what process went through? Is this a 30-day process, or is each step represented by months worth of process?
Some are quicker than others, but I probably began this around April of '24, and to come up with the first couple steps of determining, what needs to be designed and put together, that probably took maybe 3 months, something like that. Then when you submit it, then you're waiting. Each has at least a minimum 60-day period before they then send you review comments back, and you have to change them and resubmit, that type of thing. So it's been on and off. You do a certain amount of work to a certain step, and then you step back and wait.
I still have a couple more questions. So with regards to item number 3 on your checklist, hold a diagnostic team meeting. So you met with the Union Pacific Railroad, the Federal Railway Administration, and the Idaho Department of Transportation. How would you describe the demeanor of those meetings? Were they, oh shoot, another quiet zone meeting, or were they, yeah, let's see what you have? How did they receive you about coming out and meeting? Was it easy to schedule, or was it difficult to schedule?
It was a one day. Actually, we probably spent about 5 or 6 hours going around to each of the different crossings. I guess it was just average. I wouldn't say that everybody was jumping up and down or anything, but they were there to point out things they saw and make notes for every corner of every crossing. How are you going to handle this? What will you do with this? So a lot of questions asked that way. Obviously, they've been through it dozens of times, so I don't think they're there to say no. They're there to say, well, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to do it per all of our requirements. And so that was kind of the way it went. And when it was all done, we all took notes. Then we shared those notes back and forth after the meeting and compiled them into one consolidated set of notes. And that became the guideline and me making changes to my plans and resubmitting them.
Was there anything in those discussions with these 3 railroad groups or the Idaho Department of Transportation? Did they have any sort of concerns that you thought were insurmountable? Did they say crossings 1 and 3 are pretty good, but 5, 7, and 9 are terrible? You can't do it. I mean, was there any concerns that they had that you had concerns about?
No, nothing like that.
Okay. So. Then on to number 5, you submitted the application to the Federal Railroad Administration and you received approval. So what did that approval look like? Was it a phone call, hey, you're approved? Did you get something official? Is there something stamped and notarized?
Yeah, we have a letter from FRA headquarters that came last August that says you are approved per these plans to move forward with a quiet zone.
Was it approval with any sort of conditions, approval that it's only approved if you do this, or if there is?
Yes, it's an approval that the plans that we submitted, the mitigation measures, have to all be completed prior to implementing the quiet zone.
So after your original submission, so you submitted your application, did they come back and say, no, it's not quite good enough, do some more work on it? Or was it, were you pretty thorough in your original submission?
I was pretty thorough, but they did have some minor comments that I had to tweak and get back to them on, yeah.
And so you got a permission, a written permission from the Federal Railroad Administration. What sort of permits did you have to get from Union Pacific?
They had to approve the plans that I submitted. So they went to their engineers to go over the plans, make sure everything was in order.
Okay. Is that a separate process completely, meaning you submit it to FRA and they review it, and then Union Pacific reviews it independently?
It's kind of both, because when I submit the application to FRA, they distribute it to everyone, obviously including Union Pacific Railroad and their consultants. They also submitted it to, the Idaho Transportation Department, the Public Utilities Commission. A lot of different people received that, and gosh, I had to do a certified mail to maybe 15 different parties. So that's how it was submitted for the application. So Union Pacific had the opportunity and did send comments back based on that submittal. But then after all the submittals were received and any changes made, that's when FRA said, okay, here's your letter of approval. You can move forward. At that point, I then took all the plans and the final comments, and I resubmitted that to Union Pacific, to their engineers. And they went over all those plans and approved those, and that's why I was able to then put it out to bid last November, I believe. Yeah.
So at any time since you've submitted the application, has there been anything from the Idaho Department of Transportation, the FRA, or the Union Pacific Railroad that says we've overlooked something, or we forgot to tell you, or hey, just one more footnote to what we approved?
No, sir.
Okay. And so, so I've never seen the approval. I have no idea what the approval looks like, and there's some suggestions out there that we just may have made up this approval in our mind. If there's really an approval, is that a document that you can show us?
Yeah, I don't have, I'm sorry, I did not bring it with me. I
Okay,
certainly
that's
can
okay.
get it, bring it tomorrow night to show you, email it to you all. It's I believe about a 3-page letter. It's signed by one of the executives from FRA in, I believe, Washington, D.C.
So does that have an expiration date? Does it say, you're approved, and if you don't get your quiet zones implemented by a certain date, it has to be reevaluated? Or is there any sort of thing that would negate the approval?
Yeah, it doesn't have any type of expiration like that on it. I would say that, if this thing was delayed, for instance, maybe years, then they may come out with new requirements and say, this no longer applies, you have to go through the process again, or through a portion of the process again. But there was nothing in the letter about that.
Okay, all right, thank you, Bruce, I appreciate
Sure.
your.
Thank you, Councilor Dittenberger. Councilor Tillman.
Yeah, Bruce, just real quick, 2 questions. I'm kind of the newbie, so I just wanted to make sure I'm following what you said.
Sure.
So basically, this has gone through 3 consecutive years of approved budgets. It has been earmarked, approved. I know Ray Lynn's not here, or I would have asked her.
Sure.
But it has gone through 3 years of approved budgets and has been slated for at least the last 3 years, correct?
Yes, when I came here in 2024, that fiscal year had $4.1 million in the budget, which was basically to do it all, I guess. They estimated, I don't know where they got it from, but they probably looked at the 2014 $2.4 million and said we better put a big factor on top of safety on that or something. So that was in the budget I don't know that it was all in the budget. I'd have to go back. I'm not, to be spent in 2024, or if it was, okay, this is design and then construction, but that's how much was put in there. In 2025, there was 60,000 put in because we, when Union Pacific comes out and does they don't do anything for free. So all their reviews, flying them out for the the meeting that we had, those are all costs that were incurred. So that 60,000 was in there to go through the permitting process with FRA and everyone else. Actually, originally in '24, I put an RFP out for engineers, but they came back at 172,000 just to do a portion of the checklist. And that's when it was decided that, I guess you're going to learn the process, Bruce, which I did. In any event, in 2026, this current fiscal year, we put $400,000. That's what was approved in the budget last August. And again, the costs are coming in much lower at about $238,000.
Okay, and then one last question.
Yes.
Just because I saw it, we have already completed and paid for the U-Stick interchange, correct? The U-Stick crossing.
Yes, the only thing left to do on Eustace Crossing would be to install the warning signs.
Okay, so but basically, it's 99% done.
As part of widening Eustace to 5 lanes, medians were put in, and they were all done per the approval of FRA and Union Pacific,
Okay, that's all
Yes.
I wanted to know.
which is probably one of the reasons why we didn't have to spend more money out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Dilmont. Councilor Stoddard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bruce, on the numbers, not the budget numbers, but the other numbers as far as safety and the number of trains, are they all FRA numbers? None of it's city numbers, or how do we come up with the numbers, I guess?
Like the number of trains, yeah, they're all under inventory forms that you can find on their website.
Okay, and then what about the percentages for the safety? Is that FRA numbers too?
That was a study done by FRA
Okay.
in 2020.
When you had your meetings with all three of these entities, Union Pacific and the Federal Railroad Association, ITD, was there anything brought up about pedestrian safety relative to what's needed for all these crossings and what works, what doesn't work, those type of conversations?
Not really. I mean, as far as pedestrian safety goes, there is no requirement in FRA requirements to put in like pedestrian gates or different things like that.
I see.
They just want to make sure that they meet ADA for any of the sidewalks that approach them, and that you have to put in detectable warning devices, which are the yellow grid with the raised truncated domes. That's for people that are, that have sight problems, so that they can see or feel with a cane or whatever that, oh, I'm approaching something, I have to stop here and figure out what it is. That's on, same type of things that are on all of our ADA ramps on the corners, the sidewalks.
Okay. And at these crossings, will there be any sidewalks or any type of pedestrian pathway for them to cross? Because if you look at the one down here on 5th Street by the Creamery, I go past there probably every day, and I always see people cross the railroad tracks. There's no sidewalks or anything. Has anything been discussed about that?
We have not introduced new sidewalks and pathways as part of the project. We're only addressing the current ones, which are on both sides of the road on Kimball and 9th, on the one side of the road on 12th, both sides of the road on 21st, and of course now with U-Stick, both sides of the road there. So there are no pedestrian crossings right now on 5th, on Linden. Is that it? I think that's it, yeah.
That'd be correct. There's none currently on Linden.
Pardon?
There's none currently on Linden, a pedestrian crossing, but
correct.
the other intersections, yes.
Yeah, Linden and 5th do not have pedestrian facilities on them.
Okay. So when you talk to these people, nothing was discussed about pedestrian safety. Because the reason I asked is because the majority of the emails I've received and the phone calls over the last 2 months or so have been concerns about pedestrian safety, not necessarily the vehicle safety, because once the medians are put in, I think that's going to solve mostly that problem, unless somebody runs right through the gate. But
Yeah. The pedestrian, again, for whatever reason, they don't have requirements on pedestrian safety in the FRA. That doesn't mean those things couldn't be added in at a future date.
because some of the pictures I saw from the Midwest and East, some of the folks that have positions like you have gotten very creative on how to solve that problem, and I don't know if you've seen some of those pictures.
I see some of them. Typically, if you're putting in a new facility, pedestrian crossing on a railroad track, like the ones we have now are a bit grandfathered in, but if you're going to put in new ones, everything's got to be by Union Pacific's book, which can mean that you have to extend the concrete,
The width and everything you mean?
the width has to go, and usually if you're extending those concrete panels, they make you replace all the existing panels at the same time, so it adds up. It's not cheap to introduce new pedestrian facilities, but it can be done.
Yeah, okay.
I guess I would note, I was asked to look at the accidents that have occurred out there in the last 20 years, and I went back to 2000. There was one pedestrian accident at these crossings in that time. It was a transit person who was racing the train across the tracks on 21st and dropped something after he cleared the tracks, went back to get it, and was, I guess, hit on the shoulder by the train or something, spun around, so injured.
Well, the reason I asked is I have lost a couple of friends in train accidents, but it wasn't because of the proper safety equipment wasn't there, it was because they weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
There weren't any gates there for them because they were on rural roads, but they
Right.
just, I mean, and the interviews with the engineers, they said they pulled the horn and they just didn't pay attention, and that's why, so,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Estrada. Councilor Register.
Yes, just a couple of questions. So one thing that you and I talked about was something that came up just kind of recently, was that this project actually requires us losing about 7 parking spaces downtown. Is that still the number?
That's correct. One of the things that we have to do is we have to close off any of the driveways that are within 60 feet of the gate arms. So we're closing off the access points of the parking areas on 5th, on Kimball, and on 9th. And in doing that, that means that we will be rearranging the entrance points to the alleyways there to still allow people to go in and out of the parking lots. And when we do that, we have to lose, I think, 1 at 5th, a couple at Kimball, 3 at 9th, something like that. It adds up to 7 parking spaces.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know that doesn't seem like a ton, but I was doing a little bit more research into that, and according to planning and zoning, we're looking at losing at least 65 more parking spaces due to development, and then with this 7, so 72, and that doesn't include another 40 if we close down Arthur and 7th someday, and then the 75 that we already lost to Tillian. So it's like 150 parking spaces or something like that total once all the development is done. So the reason and you probably can't answer this, but the reason I'm looking at it is because we keep hearing about how this quiet zone is going to help commercial downtown, but I think that by continuing to take parking away, that makes it even harder for commercial, more so than noise. So that's why when we were talking about, 7 more parking spaces, that to me it was like, well, how are we rectifying that, right? Now, we talked a lot about your meeting with Union Pacific and all the other people that were there. Their website specifically says, Union Pacific, that they feel that quiet zones create a safety hazard to employees and people. So did they ever, like during any of these meetings, because I've been trying to get a hold of somebody at Union Pacific to try to see if that's something that they still believe, if they have any kind of like reason why they feel that way. Did they say anything to you about how they qualify what's on their website versus the information that that whoever is giving, that it's safer?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last bit?
Well, we heard that putting a quiet zone is safer than leaving it as is, but Union Pacific's website specifically says that they feel that it causes a safety issue for employees and drivers and people crossing. So did they give any kind of inclination how they can stand by that on their website and say that they feel like it's a safety issue, but then we have these numbers saying it's safer?
No, when we had our diagnostic team meeting and went around, they didn't really express anything about, opposition or that. They know that it's a process that's been gone through over 1,000 times, and So they know that whoever's going to propose a quiet zone has to meet not only all the Federal Railroad Administration requirements, but Union Pacific actually has a public projects manual about yay thick that has a whole chapter on their requirements for the quiet zone. So they just want to make sure that
Yeah.
if you're going to have one, you're going to meet all of our requirements.
Right. I'm having a hard time since they have that on their website where it specifically says that Union Pacific thinks this causes a safety issue. So I'm trying to rectify that. I wanted to talk to somebody at Union Pacific, but it's very hard to get a hold of somebody.
It is. I can verify that.
Yeah. Now, I know that the former bid that was more money included, I believe, the quad gates and the pedestrian gates. This bid that we have in front of us does not include the pedestrian gates, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I think that we determined that the pedestrian gates would be somewhere like $200,000 per
Per
crossing.
crossing, two to 300,000 per each of the 7 crossings, probably, to put in
So
the ped
over
gate.
$1 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
To put in the pedestrian gates. And I think part of the reason why I've been thinking about that is because of there's been a story shared on social media about the girl that was crossing and heard the train, the train went by and then it was foggy, they didn't see her, she didn't see them. And she went because there was no pedestrian gate and then got hit by the train. And I realize that accidents happen, but that's why I was asking how many accidents have happened in the past 20 years or so. If we've only had the one that you were talking about, I worry about the potential of another, just any kind of accident. Now, I also realize that the horns could blow, the trains can blow their horn if they see something, but there are a lot of times in Caldwell where it's very foggy and maybe they can't be seen. And to be perfectly honest, I went to the crossing and I waited for a train. And I heard the train coming, obviously, because we still have the horns. And there was a building, so I couldn't see it, but I could hear it coming. And by the time the arms went down and the dinging was going, it felt like the train was there. Now, I realize that the horn blowing and the dinging was probably very close to the same time, if not at the same time, but you could clearly hear the horn coming from down the tracks. And so when the train came through, it was alarming, right? And I think I was looking into, I can't remember what it's called right now, but there was some study about like not having a warning sound before there's an event, like not a noise before the rumbling or whatever, and how startling that is. So I just still have some safety concerns about that, especially with not having the pedestrian gates. But we do, or have done, or we're doing the quad gates, or the 4 arms down.
No, we are not doing the quad gates.
So is that-
Those are very expensive. They're about $500,000 potentially at a crossing. And they're not necessary. They're just an option.
What do they require for the arms that go down? Just an arm on each side, or 4 arms?
Yeah, so a quad gate is doing the similar thing to the median. It's making it so people can't go around the gates. So at a quad gate, on each side of the railroad tracks, you not only have the one arm that comes down for the traffic coming towards there, you have 2 arms that go down side by side. So that prevents people from going around the gates because they'd have to bust through the gate, I guess.
So you do not have to have all 4 arms?
The median does the same thing. Putting up a median that people can't drive over keeps the cars in their lane rather than trying to go around the gates, which is actually the most common type of accident that occurs at crossings with gates, is people thinking they can make it ahead of that train and trying to go around. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then just full disclosure to everybody out there, I did put in a public records request for emails that might have gone back and forth with the prior mayor to try to dispel some of the rumors that are out there or see if there was any validity to it. I got a bill for $525, so I am not going to be able to order the emails to see what that was about. So the only other question that I had then because I know you probably don't know everything that was said before, was, do you know, like, how the bid process came about? And there's a reason I'm asking, because the mayor told me that this was gonna be an in-house project, and I can read you his email. So in July of 2025, he said in email.
Counselor Register, just to confirm the prior administration, right? Prior mayor?
Yes,
Okay,
sorry, sorry. The former mayor, in an email dated, let me start all the way over. July 22nd, 2025, former Mayor Wagner stated that the funding for the quiet zone does have to be approved by council. This will take place with the final budget presentation and decision by council. And then he went on to say, I believe the majority of the work for the quiet zone will be done in-house. Thus, if I am not mistaken, you would not see a formal resolution come back before council. And so then, but here we are, right? Like here we are talking about a bid, and I realized that he sent out the bid after the election at the end of November, and I'm wondering why. If it was supposed to be an in-house project, if you know anything about that, which you might not, but why the bid
Yeah.
why the bid didn't come out until the end of November?
As far as in-house, I think perhaps what he meant was that all the design would be done in-house, because I did all of the design
No,
work.
we've
But as
already
far
been
as,
through that.
And our street crew is going to do as much of the work as we can. We're going to take care of any striping, any of the signs that need to be installed, all of that. However, we don't do concrete work, so the concrete meetings have to be farmed out to a contractor. As far as the timing of when it was put out to bid, I honestly can't remember. It might have been October, November. I'd have to go back and look. But
It was the end of
But I know
November.
that we opened the bids in December, early December.
I think the bid process started on November 20th, if I remember.
No, wait, I'm sorry.
Is that correct?
No, we did not. The bid was extended, so we opened the bids on January 13th. Yeah, sorry.
Right, okay. So then the other thing that we talked about was a possible compromise with the horns on during the day when there was more traffic, more kids driving, more people walking, all that stuff, and then horns off at night. And we've thought about that for a little bit. Well, we haven't even really talked about it, but something that is possible if that were to come up. You said that there were a couple places that do a hybrid approach like that.
Yes, ma'am, it is possible. There, of the 1,037, whatever it is, quiet zones, I think there's 28 of them or something that are partial quiet zones, which means that the horns don't blow from, I believe,
That's
sorry.
okay, you don't have to.
Anyway, like 9 PM to 7 AM or
Right.
something like that.
Okay.
But they still blow during the day.
If it's possible at all to get that list, I would like to call and just see how that's going for them, simply because depending on what the council decides or the issues raised here tonight, I wonder if that's something that could be a compromise for our community where, the bigger safety issues, I would think would be during the day when there's more people out, like I said, kids driving, people walking. Would it be helpful to keep them on during the day and then off at night? Because one of the other questions that I was going to ask Union Pacific was, I had heard that like 10 years ago, and this is not official, but this was from people that lived in the area, that 10 years ago, the trains were coming through like every 10 minutes, right? And so now they're coming through like once every hour. And so if there was any anticipation from Union Pacific or anybody that might decrease even more. So I know you can't answer
Yeah.
that, but that was.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, so, right, so anyway, if it was going to decrease more and we did some kind of compromise, if, 3 trains a day, wouldn't be so bothersome.
Yeah, I would only say to the partial, there's only, there's less than 3% do a partial quiet zone, mainly because there are still shift workers and people sleeping during the day. The other thing is it raises an inconsistent expectation for traffic and pedestrians as they approach. Is the horn going to blow or is it not going to blow?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the reason very few people do it.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I agree with you, so there has to be getting kind of used to it, but if the train horns are removed, people have to get used to it anyway, so it's kind of like, you know what I mean, like,
Sure.
you have to get used to something, so it's just sort of what it is, but I'm just trying to think of a compromise that would be helpful for everybody, you know, so
Sure.
that there's not so much division and all that kind of stuff as well. And I think that's it. I think my biggest issue still is the safety, the pedestrian gates, and the loss of more parking. So those are just things I guess we have to work through.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Register. Councilor Allgood.
Yeah, Bruce, thank you. Do you know what the speed limit is for the trains in Caldwell today?
I believe that, I'm sorry. I can find out for tomorrow night, but different, I think it varies with crossings. Some are more than others. As you get out more rural, I think they can go as fast as 60 miles an hour. Through
I've
town,
heard
I'm
that.
not sure if that's the same or not. I'd have to check.
And kind of what I'm getting at is if we implement a quiet zone, does it change speed limits for trains?
I don't believe that they change their speed limits, whether it's a quiet zone or not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions from council? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on. Steve Broombaugh, former railroad engineer. Please come forward. And just so everyone's aware, he's not speaking on behalf of the railroad, just his prior experience.
So I sent some graphics. I don't know if I have access to those or not. There we go. Okay, so I'm not a Caldwell resident, but I might be someday. I live in Nampa right now. I'm a retired locomotive engineer. I had 38 years of experience, service with Union Pacific, but like you mentioned, I don't speak for them. For several years, I held a statewide railroad safety position, and in addition to my normal duties. Safety has always been my primary focus. I also have, I've been asked to comment on this, but I've also have some personal misgivings about it. I'll state my personal opposition first. What's showing here right now is from the General Code of Operating Rules. It's Rule 5.8.2, and I don't know if you can read that very well, where I have it highlighted. It explains how we use the train whistle, whistle or horn, same thing, that they're interchangeable for railroad talk. Part of the part that that I want you to notice more than anything is where it says the engineer believes such action is appropriate in that first block. Then the next one there, that's not mine. Oh yeah, it is. I'm sorry. It doesn't look the same to me here. In the highlighted part there, again, it's basically saying the same thing. That where the engineer believes that an action is appropriate, he can use a horn. This is specifically applying to quiet zones. So track speed through Caldwell, so you asked about that, it's 60 miles per hour. You'll see trains going slower than that. It depends on what they're hauling and whether they're crossing over to the other main line going east or coming west going through the switch. There's a lot going on in the cab when the train's underway that requires close attention from the train crew. The crews must be thinking miles ahead and taking into account signal indications, upcoming speed restrictions, train handling, mechanical issues, and dispatcher communications, among other things. This item, again, like I was saying, in that 5.8.2 above, is what the train crew does when with the horn while approaching a crossing as a matter of routine. The same 2 long, 1 short, 1 long pattern every time for the same amount of time and distance. It requires no thinking or judgment. It's not a distraction to the crew's safe operation of the train. When the horn is sounded in accordance to the standard operating rule. It's never a distraction from other operating demands of attention. It is rote and mechanical. The parts I've highlighted, they supersede any quiet zone rule. And because the quiet zone eliminates the conventional proactive warning, an element of demand for extra attention and judgment is introduced. The emphasis changes from proactive to reactive, which is now the responsibility of the crew. The crew now has to decide at a moment's notice whether to sound the horn for any of the applicable reasons. Not noticing or not deciding to sound the horn soon enough can have extremely negative consequences for the crew. If I was still working, I would consider the quiet zone a personal liability and a threat to my well-being, another source of stress and a highly stressful occupation. Caldwell has been notorious in the past for encountering trespassers on the track. I didn't mention until now that I ran trains through Caldwell for quite a few years. While I have not had any incidents or close calls with vehicles that I can remember here in Caldwell, I have had numerous close calls with pedestrians. I want to mention also that while I don't recall seeing anybody driving around the gates in downtown Caldwell, I've had a couple times where they drove right through the gates. The gates just break away or swing away. So without routine sounding of the horn, I firmly believe these incidents would have been more frequent and more likely to have resulted in death, injury, or at least having to make more emergency stops. Those emergency stops result in a lot of train delay, crossings blocked, and scrutiny from management. Incidents resulting in injury, death cause train crews mental anguish, often with physical ramifications. The benefits of the quiet zone have been somewhat exaggerated. According to the FRA, crossing accident rates are neither statistically increased or decreased in quiet zones, as already mentioned. The potential 42% reduction in the future accidents in Caldwell that has been claimed is based on a point system driven conjecture. It might be more reasonable to first refer to what actually is happening with the current system. If you could put up the next chart that I have there, this is crossing accident data for the crossings in question during the last 5 full years provided by the FRA. I've highlighted the track speed in the 4th column from the right, as well as the yearly accident count for every crossing that had one. Note that there's only one accident on only one of the crossings in the proposed zone. That would be 21st Street. And I believe that was a pedestrian. I think that's the one that was mentioned. Caldwell has a very low crossing accident rate already. A search for reports of trains injuring pedestrians other than that one turns up blank. If the safety is really a reason for quiet zone, the data shown suggests that perhaps it would be more productive to address what's going on outside of the proposed zone at Look Lane. And what that chart doesn't show that I was reminded of this morning is that Look Lane had an incident back in 2017 as well. And it's all traffic there. Quiet zones are not always quiet. As noted in earlier comments, there are numerous potential reasons to sound the horn, regardless of the quiet zone designation. What's not obvious in the rules I attached is implied, but train crews are well versed. Anything that causes an obstruction of visibility can be a reason to sound the horn, in some cases sounding it continuously. One common condition in Caldwell is fog. When visibility makes it difficult to see that the track is clear and the crossing gates are functioning, my default would always be to sound the horn as if there is no quiet zone. Rail cars are often stored on side tracks in downtown Caldwell. The horn must be sounded if those cars are close to a crossing and obstructing the view. Pedestrian traffic on or near the track, which is very common throughout Caldwell, including on the bridges over Indian Creek and the Boise River, requires use of the horn. Much of that pedestrian traffic activity happens late at night. Whenever there's an event at the fairgrounds, there are many pedestrians wandering around and crossing the track at and near 21st Street. Now that event parking has been relocated to the north side of the track, I expect that activity to increase. Another thing that I have not seen acknowledged by proponents of the quiet zone is the cost of maintaining the required improvements. I have no idea what that amounts to, but I noticed when doing a search related to quiet zones that there are numerous news reports from various communities across the country that have their quiet zone status suspended by the FRA due to failure to maintain the facility the improvements as required. Interestingly, some of those zones had existed for less than 5 years. There seems to be some common reluctance to spend the funds for maintenance and repairs. It should not be overlooked that the city will be responsible for those ongoing costs. And the FRA does audits to ensure compliance with quiet zone requirements. For all those reasons, I'm not in favor of spending money on the proposed quiet zone in Caldwell, and the only way I would believe it would make the city both quiet and safer for all is if it includes elimination of all the city center crossings, as Nampa has done, and effective fencing throughout the zone. And with that, I would answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Councilor Dittmer with a question.
Yes, Mr. Brumbaugh, thank you for your testimony. I really appreciate it. I have a couple questions for you. But first of all, I want to preface my questions by saying I have a grandfather that retired from Union Pacific as a bridge inspector and worked at Pacific Northwest. I also have an aunt who retired as a scale inspector and worked everything from Salt Lake City to the Caldwell yard. I have an uncle that retired from Union Pacific Railroad in the Nampa yard within the last 10 years, and my father lost his middle finger sometime in the mid-70s at the railroad yard in Nampa. I have a long line of people who have worked for the railroad in my family, and before they closed the museum down here at our historic train depot, I'm proud to say that I had plenty of family memorabilia that was in there. So my questions are this, and I really appreciate you clarifying that you're not here representing the Federal Railway Administration, or you're not here representing Union Pacific Railroad. You're just here giving testimony as an engineer. So what year did you retire from Union Pacific Railroad?
I retired in 2019.
So in 2019, okay. So I'm just trying to look at, of all the railroad quiet zones that were approved, it would seem to be that like half the railroad quiet zones have been approved since you've retired. So how many railroad quiet zones did you engineer a train through?
I didn't run through any quiet zones that were established per this rule. I ran through Pendleton, Oregon. They had a sort of a quiet zone there, a partial, it's all day and all night, but they have for years, actually, before this rule was established, it had only using the bell through Pendleton. Now, the difference there, though, is also in Pendleton, this track speed is 35 miles an hour. So I did not experience any crossing incidents there. We had the same issue there, though, with foot traffic. So we had some close calls with that.
So if you haven't navigated a train through a quiet zone, would you be able to tell the difference from an engineer's standpoint, what a regular crossing looks like and what a quiet zone crossing looks like from sitting in the engine or sitting in the locomotive?
What it looks like? I would probably, with some, depends on how it's been built, but I would probably have some indication that it's a quiet zone from the way it looks, but of course I would have in my system special instructions, I would have prior knowledge of where the quiet zone is. Now, how it looks from the cab of the locomotive is probably not very relevant, because all I care is that the gates are down, if there are gates, and there's nobody going through them or around them. And there's no foot traffic, there's no bicycles going through. And also, if there's an adjacent main track, there's nobody walking on that track over there. That's the stuff we look for. Looking at the different crossing appliances, the only thing that we are required to know about that is that it's functioning.
So the other question that I have is, I would suspect the railroad distributes between 35 and 50% of the commodities that the American public consumes. So the railroads are really important. So I have not seen the approval, but I suspect that I've got to take Mr. Mills' word that there is an approval. Having worked for Union Pacific Railroad, do you believe that Union Pacific Railroad would issue a permit in error?
Would issue a what?
Would they issue a quiet zone permit in error? Have you known them to issue a quiet zone permit in error?
I don't know if I could possibly answer that question other than to say that Union Pacific complies with the federal regulation, and if the regulation requires them to work with a city to establish a quiet zone, that's what they'll do.
Okay. So with regards to the testimony of Mr. Mills, is there anything wrong with his chronology? Do you think that there's anything, that the city took any shortcuts in getting approval from those two administrations?
I'm not familiar enough with the approval process to have any comment on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dittenber. I believe Councilor Allgood was next.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. The accident count you have here, can you remind me what the time length is here?
Which accident?
You right there on the board. What's the time frame there?
The time frame there is 5 years, 2021 through 2025.
Okay.
Those columns in the middle, and I don't know why they read from right to left, but they do for the years 21 through 25.
Okay, and the reason I ask that, sir, is I spent quite a time in law enforcement here, and you are absolutely correct, and pedestrians are an issue. But my time frame goes back further than that, but just personal experience. We lost a pedestrian at 5th and Railroad, one at 10th and Railroad, an elderly gentleman crossing on foot, missed the train. I was at one at Linden where a guy drove around the arms, killed a family of 5 at U-Stick. A deputy was hit at 12th and Railroad. Fortunately, he survived, but by a miracle. Mm-hmm. And that's just off the top of my head. So we have had.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just saying the idea that the horns are blaring doesn't seem to affect some people. We seem it doesn't. People need to be more cautious because and there's a lot more of these collisions than I'm listing here. These are just ones I was at. And so, anyway, I'm kind of in agreement with you. Some people just don't pay attention, but we do have quite a number of them over the years.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get more of a year spread there with that chart. There definitely have been other accidents in Caldwell. I myself have a couple of times at least had to do an emergency stop in Caldwell for pedestrian. Those don't get reported. What happens with those is you guys probably get phone calls because the crossing has been blocked for hours while they get the train going again. So the only point of that chart really is that if you are talking about a 42% reduction in accidents, you're really only looking at reducing that one accident or the 5-year period by 1, unless you look at Look Lane.
Well, and it sounds to me, I hope these numbers are accurate, because it sounds to me like we're actually improving on less people getting hit, which I certainly hope so.
Well, you're asking me if I approve of the fewer people being hit?
Well, no, I'm just saying I believe we're seeing an
Oh,
improvement.
you're improving, yeah.
People being more aware.
The FRA's information seems to indicate that Idaho and Caldwell, Idaho in general, Caldwell in particular, really have a low incident rate compared to nationwide, as it is now.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Allgood and Councilor Stoddard. And after that, unless there's any other questions, we'll get to the comment period. Go ahead, Councilor Stoddard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you for your presentation. I had received a letter from a gentleman, a Mr. Birch. Are you familiar with him at all?
Birch?
B-U-R-C-H.
I don't recall.
Okay. I'll just read a few excerpts. He's kind of on the opposite side that you are, just to let you know, but his certifications, he's a certified locomotive engineer. He's got a OJTI on-the-job training as an instructor. He's an instructor. And he's also a safety representative. And some of the things, just some short quotes here. He says, I'm a certified passenger locomotive engineer licensed through the Federal Railroad Administration, and he tells us the certificates he holds. And he says, from a professional and operational standpoint, properly implemented, whistle quiet zones are very safe. And if I may, it goes on to a few other excerpts here. It says, it is also important to clarify a common misconception. A whistle zone is not a whistle-free zone. In other words, he's stating what some of the people have said already, that if you folks see a danger, you're gonna blow your whistle. And he said the reason he thinks that it's safer, he said, from the cab of a locomotive, quiet zones can actually enhance safety without the need to focus on whistle boards, and you know more about that than I do. That's inside the cab now. Whistle boards, horn cadence, and precise timing. The engineer is able to maintain greater visual attention outside the cab, monitoring the crossing, railroad conditions, and surrounding the environment. Situational awareness in the field is critical to safe train operations. And then lastly, my support for quiet zones is rooted in safety. When the required federal engineering upgrades are in place, they represent a modernized approach to grade crossing protection that prioritize engineer safety improvements and real-world risk reduction. And Mr. Mayor, if you want me to submit this, I can. If not, I just wanted to make sure that this is the other side of the coin. And I don't know, I've never met Mr. Birch, but it
Would
seems
you like me to comment on that?
Sure, go ahead.
Just real
Absolutely.
quick to clarify, that was, I believe, already in the record with the clerk. I believe they
Okay.
did also recommend quad gates and some other
Okay.
safety measures, including pedestrian. But yeah, we can have that entered in the record again, just to make sure it's
Okay.
seen.
So, did I hear correctly, he is a passenger
Yes,
engineer?
yep,
So he doesn't operate here. I don't know where he operates, but it's not here. We don't have passenger service here anywhere. Operating a passenger train, an Amtrak train, is far different from freight operation. It's different in a whole bunch of ways. There's actually not as much going on inside of the cab in a passenger locomotive. There's not even a fraction of the weight being hauled. Stopping distances are far shorter. I could probably think of a few other things that are a lot different. I think that it's not a very valid perspective to what we're looking at here. I could probably think that if I was a passenger locomotive engineer, I would have a little bit different perspective as well. One of the things, as I mentioned, operating the horn, it doesn't take any attention. It's habitual, it's rote, it's mechanical. You'd run that route every day or every other day. You'd memorize where the whistle signs are. And now they have a screen on board in the cab that's showing them where the crossings are and everything too. It's a little bit more modern than when I ran, but that screen is something that has to be watched as well. When you're coming through Caldwell and you're operating the train horn, the crossings are so close together, most of them, that it's a continuous crossing signal with a train horn going through, and there's no attention or thought applied to doing that. You've got one hand here operating the horn, and your attention's out there, and there's nothing to look at as far as running the horn. You just run it. Take away that horn, and now you have to pay even closer attention to what's going on out there because you're not giving anybody any warning. Yeah, you got gates, but there's also people on foot, and so that's actually a less predictable incursion than auto traffic.
Well, his point, as far as the horn was concerned, is that you folks would have more time looking out of the cab to see whether there were any safety issues. That was his point.
Yeah, there would be no difference in how much time I would be looking out the window operating the horn. You don't have to look anywhere but out the window and your control screen, just like always.
Okay, would you agree that if a passenger train probably is not as slow as a freight train, for instance, don't they go a lot faster through towns consistently, not slowing down? And I'm just going from experience I had with the, heck, I forget what it's called, it's been years ago, but the train that used to come through here all the time with passengers, and I've ridden them in North Dakota too, in some business up there, but.
Again, it doesn't really apply here because we don't have passenger service, and I don't want to see it coming back, but all different trains have different speed requirements. The passenger service potentially out here in the west could be going 10 miles an hour faster than any freight train out here. When we had them here, they had a top speed of 79 miles an hour, where freight speed, the top speed we have out here in track out here is 70. Through Caldwell, it's 60. If you had a passenger train going through Caldwell right now, it would also be going 60 because that is the track speed. It wouldn't be going faster, probably wouldn't be going slower. You'll have trains, freight trains that are restricted by their tonnage or the kind of cars they have or the way the train's made up that might be going 50. They might be going 40, so it isn't just a set thing. But your maximum speed here through Caldwell is the track speed, which is 60 miles an hour.
Okay, your comment on whether we're going to have a passenger train or not, if it's up to the mayor of Boise and some other state officials, we're going to have one, but the cost, that to me is ridiculous, but that's the way it is.
Now that I'm retired, I hope you're right. When I was working, I didn't like having it around.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, any more? All right, thank you. All right, well, that's a lot of good information. Just a reminder, please be respectful, right? We're gonna have different opinions here tonight. Please don't attack council, by name. Feel free to speak about what you're speaking about tonight in reference to the train quiet zone, but just be respectful of council and With that, Chris Crookham.
Hi, my name is Chris Crookham, 301 West Warehouse. We have a seed company down here in Caldwell. It's right by the railroad tracks, probably the building's about 15 feet from it. One of the things that I want to really focus on tonight is that the core of downtown Caldwell is one of the best moneymakers for the city in getting taxes in. It's one of the highest rates. It is more expensive, but it also brings in quite a few taxes. And through studies that we've looked at throughout the nation, if you concentrate on your core city and the businesses that are there, including residential businesses, these can offset taxes for the areas of the city that don't pay for themselves as far as taxes. So what we're finding now is that most of the suburbs are subsidized by the city, and then the outside agricultural areas that bring in money. And in Canyon County, those agriculture areas bring in a lot of money because it's just not wheat that is sent off on a train. It's onions that go to a packing house. It's seed that goes to a manufacturing. And so all the businesses that are here generate also a good deal of income for the city. So with having to subsidize the suburbs, I think it's really important that we focus on our downtown core. And part of that is we're going to have to look at infrastructure. And a good start to that is a quiet zone. And I believe just hearing the comments so far, if you have to pay more attention in a quiet zone, it seems like that would be a good thing. That's the only kind of from the testimony that I'm kind of coming up with, that it sounds like the engineers have to pay more attention, and I think that might be a good thing for the citizens of Caldwell. But the infrastructure is not going to stop there. We really need to look at that downtown core and taking care of it. CUNA did not take care of it, so it's relying on data centers. Meridian did not take care of it, so it has a permanent bond for police. So I'm really hoping that we don't make emotional decisions. We look at the data-driven decision-making, so that when we come back and you talk to us, to the public, you can say, here's the receipts. This is why we made this decision. So I'm fifth generation. We got sixth and seventh generations. Oh, see, I get so emotional about this. Oh gosh, we love Caldwell, and we just would love to see the downtown core taken care of so that people want to live there, businesses want to move there. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for that. And just, sorry, you're good.
Right, okay.
Any questions? All right.
Okay,
Just
thank
for
you.
those in the audience, the clerk emailed me earlier, and so far, as far as submissions prior to speakers tonight, we have 275 that has sent in letters against and 53 in favor. So just for those that are keeping notes. Next up is going to be.
Was that for me? Or?
No, that's to the crowd, to
Okay.
the council, if they hadn't had a chance to look at that yet. Next will be Don Davis.
Sir, I did not sign up to speak. Sorry.
Okay, and if you did sign up but you're not going to speak, just let us know. Next will be Kelly Jenkins.
Mr. Mayor, may I does that include all the petitions that were turned in or haven't been turned in yet?
Whatever's
number
been
you
turned
have?
in to the city clerk, she's tallied the totality of what's been turned in.
Because I understand there's some more petitions coming in, so that's why I asked.
Yes, and then we would add that to the overall number and put that to you later.
Mayor and City Council, it's good to be with you tonight. Thank you for bringing us together for this very important cause. I just want to do a little bit of a walk down memory lane for some of the newbies, as I heard that term stated today. 10 years ago, I spent a ton of time right here in front of City Council as the president of Destination Caldwell. And it was a time when you avoided downtown. There was not a lot of reasons to be there, and we would take our money to other communities. But there was this impossible dream called Indian Creek Plaza that many of us, including the city leaders, council, urban renewal, rallied around Tonight, I'm here as the president of the Downtown Caldwell Business Improvement District, and also as a downtown property owner. The district, and I'm going to call the Business Improvement District the district, just to shorten things up, unanimously supports the quiet zone. We had a board vote on it, and every board member voted in favor of the quiet zone, as do many property and business owners within the district. And I know there's some discrepancies in that 53 in favor, because there's other petitions out there that there's hundreds, actually. So we need to get that all reconciled. But anyway, a quick walk down memory lane. About 10 years ago, City Council required Destination Caldwell to spearhead creating a business improvement district in downtown. And that creation was to provide perpetual funding for the plaza. No dirt would be turned on that land where the plaza was at until that business improvement district was created. At that time, there were probably only 3 business improvement districts in the state of Idaho. 2 were failed districts and 1 was surviving over in Boise. It took 7 months, door-to-door volunteer effort, asking for property owners to approve a self-assessment on their properties. And nearly 10 years later, 365 plus property and business owners have invested almost $3,150,000 into this community because of that district. You know, at the time that district was created, no dirt was turned. Maybe a sign was placed on that lot. But there were skeptics and there was risk. There were naysayers. There were all kinds of similar things that we're experiencing. But there was leadership and there was alignment, and the community was willing to believe. Those property owners are really the unsung heroes, I think, of downtown Caldwell. They invested when success was uncertain, but they believed that it was probably Caldwell's last attempt to turn around. It's important that we keep listening to that same group of business improvement, property, and business owners. Decisions like this with the quiet zone greatly impact them. And so we want to make sure that they always have a voice. On a personal note, I too support
Let's
the
go ahead and
quiet
wrap it
zone.
up. Thank you.
Oh, wrap
Just
it up?
letting you know the time it ended, but
Oh.
could just finish it up if you could, please.
All right, let me just be really quick. I too support the quiet zone. As a property owner, we've invested for about 40 years in downtown Caldwell to try to restore historic buildings, bring them back to life, create a new vibrant downtown. Those types of community projects and investments are essential as we continue to move forward with this quiet zone. It will help us to become even a more active, vibrant, walkable downtown. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your comment.
Of course.
Do you have a question?
Yes, thank you for being here. I actually do have some questions, and I'm hoping you're the exact person that I want to ask, because some of
Okay.
it is historical, and I'm trying to just get a better idea of certain things. Let's see, okay, so when Indian Creek was brought about, the original Roger Brooks plan did not include a quiet zone. So I know that what it originally was revolving around was parking, where he said the future of downtown Caldwell revolves around off-site parking, and then gives a list of other guidance, but there's not one mention of a quiet zone in there. So what I've been trying to sort of figure out is when there were, multi-million dollars being spent on Indian Creek, if the business experts feel that the quiet zone is going to enhance commercial, why was there not a quiet zone then? Do you know?
No, I'm not sure that I have, when you're talking about Indian Creek, are you talking about the
The
daylighting of
plaza,
Indian Creek or the
bringing up
plaza?
yeah, well, bringing up the creek, the plaza,
Okay.
all of the work that went around downtown, all of
Yeah.
that. So when the Roger Brooks plan came forward, he didn't mention putting a quiet zone in. So I'm just sort of trying to figure out why we would spend all that money if the quiet zone was so integral to the downtown core.
Well, I think, I don't have the exact answer for you, but certainly when Roger came to town and created that rebranding, remarketing plan, action plan for Caldwell, it really focused on just the plaza, the core part of town, and then rebranding. What is Caldwell known for? What are our specialties? And not really focusing on a larger scale like we're looking at now. We took care of the core, now we're building out, and then it involves these tracks.
Okay, yeah, because I did read through the plan, so I know it was talking about the core, and I was just curious why it's a thing now, but it wasn't then. But,
Right.
and then the other thing we hear a lot of, and again, I'm just trying to get clarification on it, is that businesses, or that we will struggle to bring businesses to the downtown core, or businesses are struggling because of the train horns. Yet businesses did come, even with the train horns, when the plaza was done. So I guess my question now, after finding out that we're looking at losing all that parking, we have 55 spaces in one spot, 10 to 12 in another, possibly 40 more if Arthur and 7th is ever closed to a pedestrian. There's 40 we might be able to use right now, but then we're going to lose again someday when development happens on that lot. And then the 75 to Tillian. So whatever the grand number is, do you think that parking is more of an issue for downtown businesses or horns? And I'm being realistic here, because now the horns are taking out another 7 parking spots. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, we're talking about doing the quiet zone to better the downtown core and the businesses, but then we're okay with taking away all of these parking spots. And so I'm just curious, like, what the business owners think about the removal of parking, and if that affects them. I guess if they feel like the horns will make up for it, you know what I mean? Because if we take away all that parking, are we going to even have a downtown?
Right. I think first of all, we have an issue just as a society not being pedestrian walkability kind of a culture, and that needs to kind of hopefully shift over time. We have no problems going to a big city and going to a game somewhere and walking block after block after block to get to the game. But here, to park 2 or 3 blocks away, it's a bigger deal for people. So, I think that's a cultural issue that we still need to keep working on. But in addition to that, when Envision Caldwell comes back with their plan and this larger 20, 25-year focus, a lot of that parking will be addressed in that. And so I'd like to maybe just say hold off and see what's planned, because it definitely addresses parking.
Well, I think it will too. I think that there's sort of this discussion around parking structures. I just sort of think that maybe we should be looking at that plan, and if we can do it, and how we're going to pay for it, and all that
Right.
stuff before we make bigger changes like quiet zone. And then, out of curiosity, I did talk to Roger about this idea of a compromise of having the trains on during the day and off at night. He said that it could definitely be doable for some of the places that, I know that in his plan, he has a very large apartment building near the tracks that he had talked about that could be a possibility. And then, of course, we know about there's hotels and things like that, and more hotels probably that we're looking at. I think, is there has that been discussed at all, the idea of maybe a compromise, like how that would affect the downtown core and the people living down there and all that?
In Roger's plan with Envision Caldwell, I haven't seen those details, so I can't say that for sure. I'm of the mindset that consistency is important, and having this schedule with it on and off at different times, that seems like that would lend itself to potential problems. Just that's me
just mean
personally.
with the businesses, since you have that, that connection there, like, would that be something that you, like, is the daytime noise just so much from the horns that they can't do business, or would that be something that maybe they would consider talking about?
Well, I think they would consider anything, and I think, when we're talking about the quiet zones, yes, it would benefit the businesses that are here right now, but really it's to attract more growth in the downtown corridor. And it's those additions that, would rather go to another community, that they don't have to worry about, trains blowing by 17 times a day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Register. Councilor Dittenberg.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Kelly, first of all, I want to say to everybody who's listening, and for those of you in the media who care about this sort of things, you would be hard-pressed to find a person more than Kelly who has shaped this community in the last 20 years. A remarkable individual. All right, hey, I don't want him to slap the hammer. So you guys can applaud her later. But I also want to recognize, and there's questions in here. I've got plenty of questions for you, so bear with me. I also want to take the time to recognize our other community leaders who are here in this room who have helped shape Caldwell, who are considered the fathers of our community, the Crookham family. Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Pilot, you and your family's efforts, thanks for being here. Bob Carpenter, the original artist of Caldwell, and the person who probably is solely responsible for uncovering Indian Creek without getting any of the attention. Mr. Gibson for running a remarkable and a nationally renowned publishing company. Mr. Moore, I appreciate all you guys have done to help shape and build this community. Mr. Roberts, remarkable contribution. So let's go down this history again. Okay. So I remember being in the meetings in the old council chamber and talking about the commitments made by the city that there would be no plaza, there would be no commitment to see this until we had a business improvement district. So whatever happened 10, 12 years ago with establishing the business district, I would suspect there was a lot of apprehension and a lot of trepidation about stepping off that cliff. Is that correct?
In hindsight and looking back, actually, it was a mixture. I think there were a lot of property owners and downtown businesses that really saw this as Caldwell's last chance. This was the opportunity, that wind was in the sail, and just jump and go. And then there were other property owners that we didn't visit with once or twice. We visited with them 3 or 4 times. And when City Council laid that mandate down, and I remember it was a December snowy day, and we left that meeting, that council meeting, with such a heavy weight, because that was a big job. But the property owners didn't hesitate at the end to do all that they could to make sure that Caldwell became more. And
okay, so to carry on with that, let's talk about now. You're here representing the Business Improvement District, and so when you reached out to the Business Improvement District, either last August or October, or when Roger Brooks made his presentation, or in the last couple of weeks, what was the level of, what was their overall general opinion about the quiet zone?
At that point, and honestly, when we reached out, the quiet zone was almost as though it was happening automatically, right? There wasn't a whole lot of commotion about it or interest. It was kind of a consent, calendar, line item is what it was like. So it only became more of a focus after the first of the year. And so when we initially, contracted with Roger, the quiet zone was pretty quiet.
So with regards to, I think you made a comment that you have 350 business owners in the Business Improvement District. Did any of them express any safety concerns about the quiet zones to you in any of the discussions that you've had with the Business Improvement District?
You know, the majority that we've heard from are all very positive about the quiet zone. There are a couple that, you know, are in opposition, and that's fine, and there's very few that, you know, are kind of on the fence. But the majority that we've heard from are all very supportive of the quiet zone.
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Without turning around and looking at your husband for the correct answer, how many businesses in downtown Caldwell do you own?
How many businesses do
Yeah.
we own? Maybe 2.5-ish.
Okay.
You know, one's he's about ready to retire out of after a 5-year contract. So really, we just have a couple businesses that own properties here in downtown Caldwell. And we have a lot of tenants, and all of the tenants that we have in the properties that we own, they are all supportive of the quiet zone. There's not one of them that's not.
Okay, so one of the things that we hear all the time is, or from time to time, is that this railroad horn that comes through here, and just as kind of a side note comment, the railroad loves Caldwell so much it doesn't even stop as it comes barreling through at 70 miles an hour. But do you consider the whistle as it comes through town a cozy part of Caldwell's history?
No. No, I don't. I love the railroad history about Caldwell. Don't get me wrong. I know that it was the railroad that actually created Caldwell. And so it's a very important part of our history, and I think we need to honor that and continue to celebrate that, but I don't think we need to celebrate it 17 times a day with the horn blasting through, as long as all the other safety, you know, parameters are in place that are recommended and have been approved by the Federal Railroad Administration.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you,
You're welcome.
Kelly.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, it was never me. This whole community came together to create what we have today, but thank you. Anything else?
Thank you, Councilor Dittenberg. Councilor Allgood.
Okay,
I don't have anything for Kelly. I just wanted to correct a record. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it.
okay, thank you.
The quiet zone was contemplated 11, 12 years ago. That's where we got our first estimate. That when downtown was being built, Indian Creek was being uncovered, Plaza was being considered, as Mr. Mills testified, our first bid was in 2014. 2-point-some million back then, I guess it was. But this started occurring back when everything else started occurring in downtown Caldwell. Just be clear on that.
Yeah, I realize that.
Hold on just a second. Is that anything further? All right, thank you, Councilor Allgood. Councilor Register.
My question was about the original Roger Brooks plan, which was what I was trying to confirm. But I do realize that there were conversations. I did talk to some of the prior elected officials who said that it was a money issue, and then they just decided there wasn't a need for it.
All right, next is going to be Dennis Niehoff.
I'm gonna wait until tomorrow night. Thank you.
Okay. Next will be Ron Dillon.
Proud Caldwell Coward and Caver, also the spokesperson for Team Caldwell, a group of people that helped get us a fantastic new mayor elected last fall. Team Caldwell thrives on having rocks thrown at us and being called names, so please keep it up, those are doing it. I'm against quiet train crossings, but what I'm really against are the apparent sweetheart package deals that have been permeating Caldwell for a while. You say that the push for the quiet crossings has nothing whatsoever to do with the hotel that a huge number of citizens are still against. Team Caldwell doesn't believe you. You seem to be hair on fire, excited to continue to pay out-of-state developer Roger Brooks up to $20,000 a month. That's an insult to every person in this community. Who makes $20,000 a month? Does that mean that he's 4 or 5 times smarter than the rest of us? How did Indian Creek Plaza really begin? As far as I recall, the car wash fell into the creek and it started there. Roger Brooks is proposing a trail along Indian Creek. A number of us have proposed trying to create a trail connecting Nampa and Caldwell along the creek for months or years. I volunteered to spearhead it and be paid nothing. When I owned Wild Rockies, the largest mountain bike race series in the country, I built hundreds of miles of trails at ski resorts and private ranchers, and I charged the landowners nothing for my services. I've also been busy talking for months about trying to get a crew and build a trail around Lake Lowell, again, being paid zero. Caldwell and Canyon County have some people that grew up here that are wicked smart, and none of them would ever dream of asking 20 grand a month. Dave Moore, Bob Carpenter, Mike Dittenberg, do you really think Roger Brooks is worth 4 or 5 times the money that you guys make? Smartest guys in this area that I've ever encountered are retired engineer Ramsey Boutros, who will be sitting in one of those chairs in 2 years, Nampa Mayor Rick Hogeboom, and the most curious and open-minded person I've ever met in this area is Mayor Eric Phillips. You have gobs of talent in this room and in this community. If you have to pass another unpopular idea against the will of the people, at least don't rub salt in the wound by paying a fantastic amount of money to someone that didn't grow up here and isn't one iota smarter than the rest of us. I'm the 1996 BSU Marketing Student of the Year. My name's on the giant trophy, good for me. But I wouldn't dream of asking that kind of money. That's appalling to me. Although I seem to find myself on opposite sides of the quiet crossing issue with Council Member Static, rest assured that he and I have been talking about trail ideas. Chuck, I want to assure you that you've done so many good things for this town, including voting against the hotel and aligning with Ramsey against a number of poorly planned subdivisions. Thank you.
All right, any questions from council? All right, next, thank you for your comment. D. Sarton.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a newbie, so I've just moved into the Caldwell area, and I'm a new resident and a very enthusiastic one because I see Channel 7 here tonight. And I can remember years back when I came to a meeting like this when the talk was revitalizing downtown Caldwell, and I can remember being a little skeptical because it didn't look anything then like it looks now. But watching it over the years and reporting on it over the years, seeing the energy behind what was proposed and then what was actually accomplished, it takes special leadership to do that. It takes special energy to do that and vision. And so when we moved out here, about 20 acres, our family's out here now, we have a little farm, is because I love Caldwell and I love being a part of it. I love it so much that I'm now on the Destination Caldwell Board, the Downtown Caldwell Boise Improvement District, and I'm on the executive committee for the Sunny Slope Wine Trail. And I'm hoping to start a little agritourism business soon because I want to be part of what's going on here. So I care about growth. I care about it being responsible growth and being growth that's going to impact the city of Caldwell and those great people that have invested so much here to make it what it is today, but also for those of us who live a little outside the city limits and don't want to see the kind of growth that has destroyed so many rural cities and counties. And so the way to do that is to have good infill, to care about our farmland and care enough that we do responsible growth within the city limits so that we have the tax base, we have the kinds of draws that bring people in instead of going out to spend their money. And it creates this balance that can be a beautiful thing in an area like ours if it's done with vision. So I'm here because I care about preserving Caldwell's charm, rural character, and farmland. But I also care about safety. And as a reporter for over 45 years, I know how to look at data, and I know how to look at what makes sense based on that. And what makes sense here is that this quiet zone, it's common sense. And I'm going to
challenge you all a little bit here. Forgive me if I overstep my bounds a little bit. But if you can spend $238,000 to increase the safety on these crossings that go through here at 60 stinking miles an hour, and you don't approve the quiet zone, then please spend that $238,000 and improve those areas by 42%. Why would you not do that? Whether or not you want to do the quiet zone, please increase the safety. I can't believe how fast those trains go through here, but that's kind of a side note. My time is up, but for those of us that live outside of Caldwell and don't want to see the sprawl, we want to see that responsible, beautiful growth that benefits everybody, then please, I hope that you'll approve the quiet zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right, Katie Owens. Not speaking. All right, Connor Bell.
No, I don't want to speak.
All right. Sue Smallwood.
Hi, I'm Sue Smallwood, and I live on 18th and Arthur, which is right down the street. And I'm less than a block away from the tracks, and I like the sound of the trains. And my great-grandkids love it when the trains come by and blow the horns. But that's my personal opinion. And I think the money could be better spent other places in Caldwell other than the quiet zone. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's needed, and I think it's a waste of money. And that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right, next. Thank you for your comments. Travis Palmer. All right, Bob Jenkins.
Good evening, Mayor Phillips and members of the City Council. I've written everything down so I want to cover, but first I want to make sure that you guys received the petition that we passed around. It had 250 names on it, so hopefully that will get added. I think I emailed it to all of you. That should get added to the record and to the other 50 that were support. So,
just to confirm real quick, you dropped that off here to the...
No, I sent it via
okay, yeah.
email.
All right, I just want to make sure if you had dropped it off or not. Thank you.
I want to speak tonight about more than a railroad crossing. I want to speak about who we are as a community. Caldwell has never moved forward because everyone agreed. We've moved forward because people chose to come together and do hard things. Think about the YMCA. That project required vision, fundraising, partnerships, and an enormous amount of volunteer energy. There were doubts, there were what ifs, but the community stepped up. Think about uncovering Indian Creek. At the time, people said, what if someone falls in? What if someone drowns? What if the building owners won't sell? Those concerns were real, but but if we had let fear lead, we would not have the beautiful public space that now defines our city. And think about Indian Creek Plaza. Many said it would never happen. It was too ambitious, too expensive, too risky. Today, I don't think anyone can deny it has been one of the best things to happen in Caldwell's history. It has brought families downtown, it has supported small businesses, it has changed how people feel about our community. Every one of those projects had naysayers, every one of them had loud voices saying no, but they also had something stronger, community members willing to work together, volunteer, invest, and believe in a better Caldwell. Right now, we are more divided than ever. Much of it is fueled by social media. It has become far too easy to tear down your neighbor, question motives, and assume the worst. This kind of noise does not build great communities. We are Caldwell. Those who have lived here their whole lives, those who have just arrived, business owners, renters, families, seniors. We either move forward together, or we'll stall out and to be divided. I'll be honest, I wasn't a fan of how the hotel came about. I wasn't thrilled with the parking meters either. but we cannot drive forward when we're looking in our rearview mirror. That is why the Envision Caldwell effort began, to ensure that growth is guided by the community, not dictated to it. After a year's worth of meetings, we brought back Roger Brooks, the same visionary who helped shape the plaza, because we needed intentional and thoughtful growth. I'll try to speed it up here. Now I know he has said some things that might sound hurtful, but I believe he was just showing his frustrations. I am one of the three musketeers, and everything I do is for myself. I have not invested anything, and any investment in downtown will only benefit me. That's been said on social media. Growth is inevitable. The question is not whether Caldwell will grow. The question is, will we shape it or will it shape us? A railroad quiet zone is not about train horns. It is about making downtown livable. It is about protecting quality of life. It is about signaling to families, investors, and small businesses that we are serious about building an active, vibrant, and livable downtown. Cornerstone projects define cities. The YMCA, Indian Creek, the Plaza, each one required courage and unity. We can continue down a path of division, or we can choose again to come together and build something lasting. I truly believe that the division can be healed with face-to-face conversations.
Just go ahead and wrap it up, please.
Okay, information can be shared, ideas can be reviewed. We are not that far apart in our thinking. Thank you.
Sorry, real quick.
Council Register.
Have you, or I just was talking about it today, like what are your thoughts about a compromise?
You know, I'm kind of with Kelly. It could be more detrimental than good. You know, I'm always up for you know, like I said, my concern is the community. It just absolutely kills me to see us. I mean, I've known a lot of these people that are against it for years. You know, I just think if we can sit down, discuss some of the things that have been said about Roger, $20,000 a month, that's not correct. He was asked, what do you think it would take to hire a person to come in and ramrod, you know, push this project? Because somebody needs to do it.
Well,
and he said if it were him,
yeah.
I mean, it's a matter of semantics, and then it gets blown out of proportion. He said if it were him, that's how much he would charge.
Right.
But he's a very professional. He works all across the country. That doesn't mean that we're hiring him. That just means that if it were him, that's what the city would be looking at.
Right, and for me, it's not so much about Roger. In general, I liked the idea of bringing Roger back because I didn't want the prior administration to play in the city, to be honest with you. So I thought we needed a professional to come in and do that. So I completely agree with you on that. And I also agree that whoever's going to execute this project has to be somebody who can execute the project, right? It's a gigantic, multi-million-dollar project.
Or it's this money that we just spent and went down.
Right, and I think we've been over all the things and everything that you said and everybody said, and I think you would agree that, there is a division in the community, and it's like, I think that every person in this room that's shown up to speak tonight, whether they're for or against, is important in shaping Caldwell. I think that each person that comes here and expresses themselves has value and importance and all that stuff. And so I think that it's keeping in mind that everybody in this room is important. And I think you would agree with that, even though you were singled out for, shaping Caldwell. I think everybody's doing that. So I think there's some divisive words and actions that are hard to get past, and that's why I keep kind of coming back to this compromise, where I realize that there would be like a sort of a rethink, that people would have to say, okay, there's not going to be horns at night, but there's going to be a change and a rethink anyway, even if the quiet zone goes through, right? So they're going to have to get used to something new, whether it's no horns or horns half the time. And so that's just something I want to leave you with. I know you can't answer that right now, but something to think about, because I know you are a leader in that community, the business community and all of that, of how can we compromise so that we don't divide the city again? because I think what you might be seeing a little bit of, even if it is harsh a lot of the times, and it can be very inappropriate, but I think what you might be seeing in other people is a result of the feeling of that for the past 4 years, they have not had a voice, they have not had a say, they have not been able to do that. So I'm just trying to come up with anything
I
that
appreciate
would
that,
compromise.
Councilwoman Register. You know, like I said, I think we're a lot closer than we are divided. I'm not a fan on social media. I don't think you'll find me commenting very much, if at all. I think if we can be civil to each other, I'm willing to sit down. I met with a gentleman that was against it this morning at Flying M. I said, I'm open to talk. I mean, let's get together. None of these projects happen without the community, getting together and working towards it. Caldwell, like I said, I've lived here my entire life. I've just, you know, I'm against the growth. We've got a ranch out on the south of town. We've got a subdivision on one side of it, another that was approved on the east side of it. Thank goodness we're backed up to the refuge, so I don't think the feds we're going to have to worry about. The south of it, the DeSimes, I doubt they're going to be selling anytime soon, and we're worried about what happens when they do pass away. But regardless, you know, I'm not a fan of doing a lot of developments out in the outer perimeter. So what's the option? Bringing it towards town,
Right.
increasing the density in downtown on these open lots, and with that, you know, that would help to not have the horn going off.
Well, and I agree with you. I think there needs to be that conversation, and part of my feeling about this whole thing is I feel like everybody in this room could agree that the way the processes have gone over the last several years have been part of the problem with the hotel, with the parking meters and all that. And I feel like that's what's happening now, is we're doing this kind of backwards, where we're deciding on whether or not we want to put these quiet zones in, as opposed to seeing if we even want to adopt a plan first. And so those are the kinds of conversations I would like to have. And I worry about the safety. I feel like even if we put the medians in to double the safety, it's like then you take the horns away. It's like buying a car and taking it back to the dealer and telling him to take the brakes off because now you have an emergency brake. Like, I just want it to all make sense and be safe. I don't want to put anybody in danger.
And I appreciate that, but man, I've stood in front of that walk, and you would have to be problematic to step out in front of a train, and once the signage is in, with just the bells and with just the crossing guards going down, it would be, you'd be making a very unwise decision.
Well, I agree, and I think that's the things people are going to have to learn again. But
well, personal
anyway,
responsibility plays a lot into that.
Yeah, I would like to see the pedestrian gates, but that's just, again, that's just, you know, my opinion on it. I think when we had the money and then we reallocated a lot of that money to the rodeo, and so it was kind of like at that time it was not so important. But anyway, but I appreciate that, and I would like to have more conversations that revolve around a solution. And again, I'm just kind of throwing that compromise out there to see if anybody even thinks that's a good idea. So.
Anything else?
Thank you, Councilor Register. Councilor Dittenberg.
Mr. Jenkins, you don't get to run away so quickly. Again, I want to express my appreciation for all you do for this community. I was one of the people who criticized you many years ago for hanging on to those ugly buildings. And so now thank you for holding on to those ugly buildings. And got to do physical assessments of those buildings way back when there was a King's building there, and got to see those buildings progress over time. So you came up here and you said something initially, and then you piqued my interest, and then you walked away. So I want to piggyback off a little bit what your wife talked about with regard to the Business Improvement District. You talked about a petition. So tell me a little bit about the petition. Is it the same people that are in the Business Improvement District? Are we?
No. So our Envision Caldwell group, we had, 3 weeks kind of to analyze this, and we were a little slow out of the gates. But we did a lot of research. We started a website, Caldwell, quietzone.org, and we've put a lot of good information up there. We'll be posting the interview I did with the gentleman from Amtrak. He is based in Portland, but his family is here in Nampa and Caldwell. He has family in both communities, so he keeps good track of it. He runs through quiet zones from Portland south and Portland up to the Tri-Cities. Very interesting. I learned a lot. We went door to door getting signatures. The signatures were labeled up on top, exactly what we were doing. Again, I've turned them all into you. I did put them into a spreadsheet as well. We have got quite a few businesses from Treasure Valley Metals, Dave Wheats, all the way up to Gary and Dana and Aaron Vance up on 21st, and everybody in between. There are some that are neutral. There are some that said no. But it far outweighed. Like I said, 250. I'm glad to hear that there was another 50. But again, if we can't come together and work together on this and discuss it, you know, we could have 1,000. I'm not a firm believer of majority. I think things need to be thought out well and discussed in the future, why it's a good thing, why it's not. You know, because sometimes you have to make a decision, and it's up to you guys to make those decisions.
So with regard to this petition, so you personally met with these people?
Yeah, I got to visit. I mean, Dave Carrick was one of them. I haven't talked to Dave in quite some time. We had a good conversation. Daniel from the Casa Elino, hadn't met him. Well, he came to our Rotary Club once. I talked to him. I've talked to, you know, you name it. The lady that has Caldwell Floral, she said no, but she really liked Roger Brooks' plan from what she saw of it in the paper that they talked about. So there's all kinds of opinions. Everybody's got their opinion, which is rightfully so.
So with regards to the quiet zone, sorry, Mr. Mayor, so with regards to the quiet zone, I mean, I would suspect that was the reason for your petition. I mean,
Yes.
You went out there with the quiet zone. So the majority of the people that you spoke with were business owners, I take it, or were they residential people?
Most of it was business, and then we did spread out down Arthur Street, Cleveland, and a few others. Then it kind of got on a roll, and some other people just went around with the sheet, and so we've got the community kind of covered. But when you know, all of it was on that spreadsheet I sent you. I don't know, you know, you guys can do with that what you will.
Well, just to be honest with you, I think I speak for all the other council members. We've probably got 200, 300 email. We get 30 or 40 a day with regards to this, and even though we care, it's a lot of time.
It is, and that's why I tried to condense it and consolidate it, but you've got their names on there. You can go have a conversation if you want as well. But it was kind of fun, and like I said, I know the majority of people in this community, so it was kind of fun to catch up and just talk about the future of Caldwell.
Well, I appreciate the effort that you put into it. So the overall takeaway from it was the quiet zones are a move in the right direction.
They think so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just to clarify real quick, does anyone else have a question? The petitions, was that part of the online gathering, or is it a combination?
Yeah, it was online. It was well documented. If you go out to the site, it tells you, you know, we were just after business owners, community members. We didn't, and I went through, I could recognize a lot of the addresses. If I couldn't, I looked them up on Google. I tried to make sure they weren't duplicates, but we had 250 there. You said you had 30 some, so, and how many opposed? So, like I said, it turned into a flashpoint topic, and but I just wanted to make sure the other side was heard as well.
Yeah, and just to clarify, that's what the clerk reported as far as letters being sent in. So we'll tally up the final numbers. So
Okay.
just, that's what, we had just got a message about that, but Council Register.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that the clerk had told me before that she might be able to look through and see if there were any duplications on either side, right?
Yeah.
So people that signed a petition
Now, I don't
and
know
sent
if
in,
they could have signed up online or on the petition and then also sent a letter in. don't know. That's something you guys
Yeah,
will
so
have
we're
to
gonna
figure
try to break it down a little bit better by number,
I've
just
taken,
to,
I think,
yeah.
taken enough time.
Yeah.
All right, thank
Thank-
you. Eric Bullock, would you like to speak?
Good evening, I'm Eric Bullock. I'm representing your Caldwell YMCA. And I will just say that the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror. And we have been on a great trajectory for the last 20 years as a city, and I want to see that continue. The big thing for me is safety. If we can make it safe, it should happen. I have a staff member right now that moved into the Tillian when it first opened. He can't wait to move out because of the train horn. And I have to hear that. I have to listen to what the feedback he's giving me. And I owe that to you and to this community. It is a disruption. And we can do better. I have lived next to a train track. When I lived down in Atlanta, Georgia, and I bought a house, I was young, I was not making a lot of money, bought a house by the train tracks and tried to raise 2 little boys in it. It was tough. It was disruptive. And I moved out of there. I sold that house and got out of there as quick as I could. So I've experienced the disruption as a resident. I think we owe our residents in this area a better life. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any questions from council? Did Travis Palmer come back? I haven't seen him. He's not coming back? Okay. We'll just keep him open for tomorrow night if he'd like to show up. All right, Vivian? Yes. Please, yes, please come forward. I didn't want to mispronounce it, but thank you.
That's okay. My name is Vivian Firkin. I live at 19335 Lower Pleasant Ridge, which is Canyon County, but I have a business at the Caldwell Airport. And I'm going to come from a little bit different perspective, and that is that for the last probably 6 years, we have been waiting for funds, for things to happen at the airport, for the general aviation. And we're always told there's nothing in the budget for us. And then to see this come about is kind of disheartening. So I just wanted to let you know that as much as we've worked, I know Diana has worked, Chuck has worked with us, Jeff has been with us. They know exactly what we've done, what's going on out there. And yet we're proposing funds for something like this, which really isn't. I mean, I understand Indian Creek's wonderful, this is great what's happened, but there's other areas that really need funds. Aviation Way and Linden needs a light. My goodness, that's the most dangerous intersection. It's an off intersection, and if you try to cross that, it's ridiculous. You should try to cross it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's absolutely no way. So there's just all kinds of different areas that we can put these funds. And I just wanted to put that out there to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, councilors. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Vivian. It's really more of a question. That was budgeted, that light for Linden and Aviation. Is that still in the works?
It is. It should be installed in the next 2 months.
Yay.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Thank you, because we're tired of seeing people hurt and possibly fatal. So thank you very much for that. So thank you.
All right, thank you. No further questions. Jim Hollis.
I'll pass till tomorrow.
All right. Cindy Foster.
Mayor and council, thankless job that you guys have. But I want to thank you so much for the opportunity that we as a community have a voice. Because we're not businesses, we're folks that live here. I was born and raised here, guys, and I'm old. Caldwell has always been my home, and it's important to me, it matters to me. I have 2 big concerns here. There's lots of sub-concerns, but the 2 big concerns is, first of all, safety. You guys hold that in your hands. But I'm going to ask you to hold it into your heart. And this is why. With the dispersion of parking at the fairgrounds, folks, we're going to have people walking across the tracks. That's the reality of it. And as we've heard from the expert witness of 36 years of driving through Caldwell on the train, pedestrians is an issue. And we can't think for folks to be smart, but we have to do everything we can for them to be safe, right? So I hope that you would consider the safety factor, because that's a big deal. The other thing that I would like you to consider is the liability. So when someone gets ran over and hit by a train, City of Caldwell is going to be liable because of the safety, the zone, the quiet zone. You guys are going to be held liable. And right now, can we afford that? Can y'all hold that in your heart to have that be okay? I'm going to tell you I wouldn't be able to. Right now, there's already a lot of lawsuits toward the City of Caldwell. And can we afford to have a life taken or a life injured? That's real. So that has to be, those two things have to be paramount. The sub comments would be with the money can be spent someplace else. I've heard contradictory things tonight. 7 parking spots taken, or is it 150? There's a big discrepancy there. Either way, Caldwell can't afford to lose a parking spot, can we? None of us. And if people are disabled like I am, it's hard to walk that far. Not lazy, disabled. Different deal. Yeah, there can be a change in the community is learning to walk, but most of us, you know, it's just not it's not how Caldwell is. Let's keep Caldwell. Let's be smart. Let's use common sense. Let's think about our people. Think about what's best for the individual, not just businesses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. Any questions from council? Councilor Stoddard?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our wonderful lawyer, can you answer the question?
Yeah, sorry about that.
As far as liability?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Stoddard, we've researched this in the city attorney's office and looking at the documentation. There's no automatic removal for liability for installation of a quiet zone to the city. The city would be responsible for its own negligence, just like we are for any other improvement we do in the city or any other sort of thing. But just putting the fact that there's a quiet zone in place does not make the city automatically liable for any accidents that would take place in there. If the city has some negligence attached to that, there's potential. But like I said, it would be just like any other sort of thing that the city has anywhere else.
I come from a background of working at the prosecuting attorney's office back when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Can we, sorry. Yeah, so we're
No
just going to
comment?
cut it off from there.
Okay.
Just to clarify, would that also involve, I believe it was mentioned earlier about failure to maintain? Is that an issue?
Exactly.
Failure to like if we failure to maintain, that was brought up earlier during the presentation.
Mr. Mayor, that would be, yes, if the city didn't properly maintain what it was supposed to do and there could be a court, liability is determined in the rearview mirror by a court.
Yes.
And if the court determined that somehow the city's action or inaction, such as a failure to maintain, led to or directly contributed to some sort of damages to a person, then the city could have liability on that. But that would have to be determined by the specific facts of each and every case.
So as long as we budgeted, kept up the maintenance, in theory, we're covered in that side.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, next up, Bob Carpenter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, sir. Just the clock's up here, just as a
Pardon
reminder
me?
for everyone in the room.
What?
It's up there, just 3 minutes in case
The
anyone
clock
forgot.
is running.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Just reminding, some people forget where it's at, so I was just reminding the rest of the room.
Well, I wanted to thank Mike and Ron
Go
for
ahead.
the added attention. I just love attention. So I'm very proud of Caldwell's progress over the last 20 years, 25 years. Change is not ever easy and always has sparked debate. And we're having debate. I'm encouraged by the large amount of support that has come forward in favor of this in such a short period of time. We've only had basically 2 weeks that we knew that this was going to happen. I would also acknowledge the frustration of the recent past. To that I say, it is in the past, and now we are designing our future. I haven't heard sufficient evidence that safety would be compromised. I also believe that the broader sense, as Bob said, we have a lot in common. I do not support negativism or name calling, and don't like that that's where we've gotten. We must approach the issue with logic, not emotion. I ask that the council to pass the quiet zone as it's presented. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that very much. Randall Crawford. All right. April Long. Okay. Mike. I don't want to, it starts with an R. I don't want to slaughter the last name. Is Mike here? Oh. R-I-O-N. D-A-N, sorry. Judy Whitworth.
Yes, that's me. Okay, this is not a real one, but it does suffice. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. My attire is not to be mocked. For any reason. I am dressed like the days of old as a railroad man. The one that comes to mind is Casey Jones. He has become a legend, gave his life for a cause the best he knew how. In those days, they used detonators and lanterns to stop a train. I brought the lantern and fought against the detonator. We have come a long ways from lanterns and detonators. There are many ways to warn people today. The trains today are faster, longer, and louder, and create a quiet zone is not one of the ways to warn people. Horns, noise, and gates at crossings are all the ways. People are going to be people. Even with the best of intentions, there are going to be deaths. My nephew is a conductor. Not sure if he travels in Idaho or not, but I must say his train, him as the conductor, ran over a human being and killed him. My nephew still to this day has visions. His recovery is still ongoing from that tragedy. He is not an island, so there are others that this has happened to, like his twin brother, who got hit by a train with no horn. Like I said, even with the best intentions, death happens. Why does anyone in their right mind want to add to that drama? And is beyond me. I am here to say no to the quiet zone. And thank you all for listening to my story and looking at my lantern.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right, thank you for that, and thank you for not bringing the explosives. That would have been awkward. Tracy Casper.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Casper. I have a company over at 524 Cleveland in the Cornerstone Building, and for those of us who remember, the old Sears building. I grew up in Caldwell. I love my little town, my now not so little town, but I also made sure that my kids grew up here as well, so they attended Caldwell schools, something I'm very super proud of, because this is where I wanted to raise them. I wanted them to have the values that Caldwell has. I wanted them to experience everything that Caldwell has. But I do have to take one more step back from the Indian Creek to just one more decade before that. I was chairman of the Caldwell Chamber Board in 2009. I'm a realtor. So starting in about 2008, it got really rough. And then 9, and then 10, and then 11, and then 12. And there was 5 years where it was really, really rough. So I got involved, and I was on that chamber board. And working so closely with those businesses, we tried so hard because we already had the nightlight parade. How do we get all of those people to just stick around and go to those businesses? They didn't. They didn't want to. We had to figure out a way for those businesses to have patrons come to their doors. We worked so closely with them and had these big dreams that came true with the plaza. A vibrant downtown, restaurants that actually wanted to come in, businesses that wanted to be here. We made it, and not without all of the work that you've heard already tonight. But here we are at a new crossroads, a crossroads where there are so many other companies that are looking at us, and a few of which who have already said, I can't. These are professional businesses that want to come in here. I used to be for 20 years down at the Willows building, and if I was on a call and the train was going by, all I had to do was say, hang on. And you put them on hold. Hang on, it's almost gone. Wait, there's one right behind it because it was going the other direction. So we have experienced that, and those companies can't afford that. So we do lose them. This is an opportunity, put the business side away. We only dreamt. In fact, the city council created a downtown corridor zone that allowed for living, living in downtown Caldwell. We never imagined that. And having the condos and having the apartments where people could live here, walk to the coffee shops, walk to their businesses, maybe even work from home. There is a quality of life situation here where we can absolutely give those people who want to live, work, and play here that chance to do that. And thank you, by the way, for passing the urban renewal district that you did, what I've heard now dubbed the Garden District, which is everything between here and the freeway. What an opportunity, and in addition to the lights and to the parks and to the other infrastructure that you're already planning, to be able to give them a quality of life, I am almost done, a quality of life where they can have that peaceful living that they also deserve. And thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councilor Dittenberg?
Mr. Mayor, Tracy, thank you very much for your contribution. I didn't see you behind that camera that this news lady here had in the way, so I would have recognized you with the other great leaders in our community. And so thank you for holding out those tough years between 2007 and 2010 where the housing market was terrible. The city was also going through a financially rough time at the time, and I think the chief was fully aware of the cutbacks that had to take place, and so we want to be ever aware of what happens when there's a large dip in our economy, and that we should not forget what happens even when there's a small dip in our economy, what that may do. But my question for you is, I hear all the time people saying, if you don't like the train whistle, just move out of the way. Tracy, tell me a little bit why it is that people who live down in that area just can't just move.
Some of those people inherited those homes. There's no way they have the funds to be able to relocate. For some of them, it is the place that they can afford. For some of them, they want to be near a job that they can work or walk to or bike to without having to have automatic transportation. For some of them, they've just lived here their whole lives. They don't know anything different. I can't answer every single one of those situations, but I know that there are people who want to be here. They want to live here. Whether it's out of necessity or out of desire, they should have that opportunity to do so and have that quiet zone so that they can have that quality of life while they're here. I can't imagine having a 2-year-old or a baby. I just can't.
So the other question I have is kind of something that somebody else brought up with regards to, Scott brought up with regards to Tillian. And residents saying, I just don't want to live here because of the noise or whatever the case may be. And you and I haven't rehearsed this conversation or anything, have we? No. Isn't there clear indication, research data out there that shows the long-term effects that people who live in undervalued and underrepresented areas, and what improving those areas could do to a larger area?
I will use Caldwell, in fact, she's in this room. Mrs. Carpenter, Elaine Carpenter. Does anyone remember when she and a group of people got together to put together the historical district? She does. And they put together, and the reason I know a lot about this is because if you ever list a house in there, she comes to visit you to tell you that you're in the historical district, and to make sure as the realtor, you're disclosing that so that that new owner understood what their responsibility was for living in that area. And I do remember thinking when I first heard that, holy cow, does anyone remember what that area kind of looked like before it was the historical district? It is amazing when someone fixes up a home or a building or anything in an area that the neighbor next door says, shoot, I should probably wash my windows, I should probably rake the yard, I should probably. It is transformative to watch when people come together because they do become very proud of where they live. Elaine and her group gave those people that lived and owned property in that district such a gift because it has just transformed. I like to call us a 20-year overnight success. We notice it when it's done. We don't notice it so much while we're building it. And we are at one of those crossroads now.
Great. So with regards to what you just spoke about improving that community, and I think the council did a remarkable job by approving that Central Urban Renewal Agency. Do you think that the quiet zone plays into that whole improvement of that area?
No question. No question. As I saw and heard all of the different ideas that were coming out of that urban renewal meeting, with the lights, with the parks, with the widening of streets, this only makes sense. If people want to really love where they are and start to really invest where they are and they start to see all of these things happening, this will only add to the reason why they will come here, or investors come in, or the people who own those that are renting them, fix them up, 100%.
Right. Tracy, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You for that. Any other questions?
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. Ms. Nancy Roberts.
Left my cane behind. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Nancy Roberts. I live in Caldwell, about a quarter of a block from the train. And yes, it's loud. I'm not in favor of the quiet zone as it's being presented. I think that we have a safety issue that is massive. I watch every day and evening quite a number of people who are handicapped trying to get across the tracks. And it takes time, and it's difficult, even as it is now, when they have a pretty long time of safety, because you can hear those trains way down the track. And most of the time, the crossing arms do work, but they don't always. So that's a bit of a problem. So the situation a lot of times is not that we have a culture of people who don't want to walk. We have a pretty big group of people who are not able to walk very well or not able to walk at all, and so they're using various mobility devices, and I just don't see how they can get across those tracks unless we have the gates. We need the gates, we need the lights, we need the signage, and with this plan, there are just medians and curbs, no gates. Those people are not going to have a prayer of getting across those tracks. And so we have many people that Roger Brooks calls mobility challenged, And we have groups of children going back and forth. We have a lot of elderly people like myself who are not walking quickly enough to run across those tracks. I just think that's where your big safety issue is. And by taking the lowest bid or a low bid, when you have $400,000 at your disposal, I don't think it is reasonable at all when you haven't addressed the safety issues for those groups of people. And hope this is not out of order, but Mr. Brooks stated in an email that, Roger Brooks, that gates are not required, that safety is not required, but he would side with the mayor that they should be added, and my response is a resounding yes, they certainly should be added. And the gates and the signage need to be at every crossing. The residents of North Caldwell need those items at all crossings between Kimball and 21st, or actually 5th and 21st. Surely it's not the intent to further restrict those residents' ability to easily and safely access all areas of the city. So I would again suggest that we use, if you're gonna do it, use all the money, and maybe you need more, I don't know. But you need to get those gates in there for the people who are not able to be completely able. I think that's enough for this evening.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions? Councilor Denver.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. My question is more for Bruce. Bruce, Ms. Roberts said that the only thing that would be there is some curbing, but we still have the gates, is that correct? And we still have the signage, and we still have all the pedestrian signage. The only thing we're doing, we're not taking anything away, we're just adding curbing, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm not sure she's not talking about pedestrian gates.
Oh, you're talking about the pedestrian gates?
Pedestrian gates.
Okay, thank you.
Because the trains are coming very fast. So even if you are able, on my good days, it gets there before you can hardly believe it. You have to really move to get across the tracks. And not everybody's going to drive. We have a large walking population. People these days are walking more, just to try and stay healthy, but it's for the handicapped and the women with strollers and those groups of kids and everybody else that are trying to get across the tracks. I don't think that the plan as it is set is safe.
You have a, thank you for your question, by the way, and thank you, Mr. Mills. You have a unique perspective where you live. When events happen downtown, I know there's a parking lot not far from your residence. Do you see an increase of traffic across the tracks? Do you see people spilling over further, especially if we were to restrict parking, like mentioned earlier, not restrict, but reduce? Do you think there's going to be more foot traffic, and would you see that from where your vantage point's at?
I don't particularly see that there would be more traffic because those parking areas are south of the tracks. And most of the places that people want to go in downtown Caldwell are in south of the tracks, so they're not going to be coming to the north.
You have a parking lot just north of the tracks right by you, correct?
Well, that's true. That's
Yes.
true. And it gets used an awful lot.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your comment. Next is going to be Cassie Collier. Casey, sorry, Casey. Casey in here. Carla Frank? No, thank you. All right, Chrissy? No, thank you. Michelle Beck? No. Ori? Baldazzo? All right. Kim? Is there a Kim? Starts with last of H. Sorry, some of these are scribbled out. Oh, sorry. There you go. Now I know who you're talking about. Please come forward.
Hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name's Kim Hasnerl, or Kim H., and I am the Executive Director for Caldwell Fine Arts. I am in support of the Quiet Zone. There are a lot of situations in downtown Caldwell that may not be as impacted by a train whistle as the arts. I'll use the Nutcracker as an example. When we have the Nutcracker, we have 70% of the people that come to that are from outside of Caldwell. My dream for downtown Caldwell is to have a venue. I'd love to have a new venue in Caldwell. I think it's so important to grow the economy for economic development, people that come in, go to a show, go out to eat. If I'm having the Nutcracker there and the train whistle goes in the middle of it, depending on where the venue is, those people aren't going to think it's charming or quaint or historical. It's going to ruin their experience. And so when I send out a survey after the show, I'll guarantee you I'll hear about it. It's one thing to sit at the Flying M and hear a train whistle. It's another to actually be buying a ticket or attending an event and have to listen to it. I also think at some point we'll have other outdoor venues in downtown Caldwell, and the sound will definitely impact that. And so I just would like to just say I'm in support of the Quiet Zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions from council? All right, Jean Kreibring.
Good evening, Jean Kreibring. I want to thank you for this opportunity and your time. Honestly, as I stand before you, I'm concerned and more opposed to the process or procedure. This whole scenario is backwards. Why are we even discussing a quiet zone when there isn't a development plan approved for moving forward? In formulating the Roger Brooks plan, there has been no formal public outreach feedback within a workshop or online survey. According to the MOU, there were supposed to be citizen representatives to assist or give feedback during the idea phase. That didn't happen either. Granted, Roger Brooks may be an expert, but not necessarily for Caldwell. More importantly, no plan has been approved nor adopted. We need a plan first, not a quiet zone. Truly, I feel that the citizens are most upset because we haven't been given the whole picture nor all the necessary information. And then to find out that a few individuals are scheming, trying to buy up land before the public finds out, plus developers have already been consulted prior to any type of future plan approval. This is inappropriate. Again, backwards. I've been told I'm not in favor of change because I ask questions and I want truthful answers. I'm all for change if I have complete information and appropriate research. We don't have that. Now, concerning the quiet zone, there is a lot of confusion and plenty of misinformation. First of all, some emails and communications state 6 crossings, 7 crossings, or 8 crossings, just exactly how many crossings. Next, the citizens were told that anything within 60 feet of the downed arm would need to be curbed. I did my due diligence and took my tape measure out to realize the ramifications of this railroad protocol. We will be losing complete parking lots per this guideline. We already are in need of more parking, and the quiet zone will cause us to lose parking. This should be a red flag. And why are we not considering complete safety measures for pedestrians or ADA compliance? Will this be just like the students hit in the school zones? Now Caldwell is scrambling to make school zones safer. This will be the exact same scenario in the future of the quiet zone without pedestrian safety measures from the start. And what about maintenance and insurance? Secondly, we have been told we have to have the quiet zone for HUD housing. I don't recall any HUD housing in the non-approved plan. HUD housing can be built outside of a half mile from the tracks without any sound studies. Lastly, we were told by the superintendent of the Dirt Lot Hotel that commercial builders know how to build for noise and vibration mitigation. Why then are we being told that we have to have a quiet zone in order to attract development? Someone is not telling us the complete truth. Please 86 this quiet zone until we know how the city plans to proceed with a future development plan. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Let's hold the clapping. Any questions from council? All right, stand by. Mr. Rob Pilot.
Mayor, members of council, thanks for your time tonight. Rob Pilot, 1102 Arthur here in Caldwell. I've got kind of a prepared statement so I can get it into 3 minutes. We all know that Caldwell was built around the railroad, and growing up here, many of us had the sound of the trains as a soundtrack to the experiences we had in Caldwell. And, you know, that nostalgia is important. It's a part of our history. But tonight, and this decision isn't about preserving nostalgia. It has to also be about good governance. Because we have to take an honest look at what it takes for Caldwell to remain healthy, to remain stable, and address the obstacles that stand in our way as a community. And we all understand the long list of needs that you're faced with every day. We need a parking structure, infrastructure's behind, schools, first responders being hired, maintaining a quality of life for the residents expect. None of those are optional, and none of them are getting less expensive as we move forward into the future. Downtown is one of the few places that we can address those needs by strengthening our tax base without expanding into agricultural lands or absorbing the infrastructure cost that urban renewal or urban sprawl causes. The city and this community have already invested in the downtown success, and a quiet zone would build on that investment by strengthening the commercial foundation that supports the city's budget. That matters because when commercial investment grows, it generates the sales and property tax revenue needed to fund these priorities and relieves pressure on the residential tax base. When it doesn't, those costs don't disappear, they just get shifted to our homes. Obviously, safety must remain the top priority in this endeavor. And I'm not an expert on crossing zones, and I'm not an expert on trains, but I have faith in the employees of Caldwell and Director Mills that this does that. The quiet zone requires enhanced protections and federal approval. The railroad and the FRA, they wouldn't have approved this designation if those standards were not satisfied. Thousands of communities operate under this same framework. We're not lowering the safety standards, it's just meeting them in a different manner. I don't know what Caldwell's future looks like. As we shape the vision together as a community, we have the responsibility to make decisions now so that we're prepared and in control of whatever paths we ultimately take. Supporting the quiet zone proposal is a reasonable and responsible step towards strengthening our foundation, represents smart growth, and positions Caldwell for that future. And I would stand for questions if you have any.
Thank you for that, sir. Councilor Dittenberg.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Pilot, thank you very much for your involvement in the community and for all that you do. You come from a long and storied history of people who displayed successful business models, and I don't know of any person more than you who probably knows how to effectively use a spreadsheet and do financial forecasting.
It's all about the numbers.
You and I have disagreed on some things in the past, one of them being you're in it for the long game, and some of us don't want to see the long game. We want to see something more immediate. But in all of your business dealings and all that you've done in this community with regards to the things that you've brought about, do you think that the quiet zones help project this community, project Caldwell where it needs to be for the next 25 years?
Well, I think that we have a long list of things that need to be taken care of, and we need to figure out how to pay for it. And I don't think anyone in this room wants to have to flip the bill for a parking garage. So I think if we're smart and we have a plan and we can encourage the development that we want to see happen on our terms and get them to pay for those things, then I'm all for it. And I think that the quiet zone is a stumbling point to continue to see the next level for downtown Caldwell.
So in your opinion, it's a hurdle that we need to overcome in order to get to the next steps of where we need to be to have businesses pay for the development?
I agree.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker is going to be, and thank you for your comments, by the way, Robert Roberts. All right. Mark Zemek. Mark here? Michelle Bratton. All right, Gina Bosco. Randy Neary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Randy Neary, a 507 Dishman, citizen of Caldwell. I wanted to debunk a few of the things that I've seen online about the quiet zone and what it represents. One of them being that it's rich out-of-state developers that are coming in and doing this. I can tell you as somebody that grew up in Caldwell, born in Caldwell, raised his family in Caldwell, and now is a business owner of Caldwell, it isn't rich out-of-state developers that benefit from businesses and properties and developers coming in. Right now, one of my various companies, we're doing work on 3 buildings in downtown Caldwell. In the past, I've done work on about 8 buildings in downtown Caldwell, quite a bit substantial work on them. That has fed my family, but not only has it fed my family, it's fed my plumber's family, my HVAC guy's family, my roofer's family, my mason's family, my concrete guy's family. So this development that comes to downtown, not only does it bring tax base like Mr. Pilot and Mr. Jenkins have brought up, but it also brings local economy. The people that eat downtown, I have 7 employees, and 5 of my 7 employees live in the city limits of Caldwell. So we spend our money here, we live here, everything's here. So it's not just out-of-state developers that this affects. It does affect us locally at a grassroots level. I'm also going to debunk another thing. One, it was just brought up. I sit on the advisory board for the airport, that we have needs at the airport, and we do have needs at the airport. We have brought those needs forward. This council saw graciously to budget $200,000 for our airport this year. Side topic, I don't want to get down that road, but that need has been met. When I left to come here today, the intersection of Linden and Aviation, terrible. Took me 15 minutes to get across it. We do need a stoplight. Power's going in. I see it every day when I drive by it. That stoplight, like Bruce said, is coming very shortly. So again, these needs have been met. But these needs are met because of a tax base. And this tax base, we all know, Councilman Stoddard and I talked quite a bit about this, about our imbalance in the tax base between residential and commercial, and we need that commercial. We need more of it. I need it selfishly for my business to prosper, for my guys to work, for payrolls to be made, for my plumber, my HVAC guy. We work really hard to employ a lot of Caldwell citizens when we do these jobs, and yeah, there's a selfish avenue to that, but it does affect us on a grassroots level. There's a lot of emotion here. I know it was said in a city council meeting just last week about fear mongering and how we were tired of it. And I agree with when that was said. There's a lot of fear mongering and so much emotion put to a lot of these decisions. I'm here to say let's continue that, not have more fear mongering about even this decision, not just about annexation decisions. And my time is up, so please no questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council? Councilor Stoddard.
Thanks, guys.
Do you have a moment?
Neary.
Mr. Neary.
That was a good presentation, I'll have to admit. Most of us know that we don't have any specialties in concrete and how to lay it and how to keep it. If this thing is approved, would you be willing to, lack of better words, donate some time and material to put in those crosswalks that we need across the tracks? Or at least contribute to the how to do it right?
Yes, my specialty is not in concrete. Many of you know I happen to be an electrical contractor as well as a building contractor. Yes, I would, because I'm actually very in favor of donating my skills and my knowledge at the airport through an electrical. If it's in my wheelhouse, I give to this city. I've put my money where my mouth is, much like Mr. Pilot and Mr. Jenkins. I'm a big investor in Caldwell. You can't do more than what you do with your pocketbook. So I would help out in any way I could. We are a public works licensed contractor. I would even do work at a huge discount just to cover costs for the help of the city. I do that now. I do it for churches. I do it for schools. I would continue that philanthropy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you got me on the record on that one.
All right, Scott Gibson. Sorry.
You have my letter
Thank you for that, and we do have your letter. Aaron Vance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. At this point, probably everything I'm going to say sounds redundant this late in the night. I'm a third-generation business owner in Caldwell. My family has been here for so many years, built multiple businesses in this area and worked them. I'm probably one of the younger business owners around here, or not around here, but here tonight. And I'm here to say I'm in favor of the quiet zone. I've talked to a lot of people about it. One thing with my business is I get to talk to a lot of investors and a lot of people trying to come into Caldwell. And one thing I'm advocate for, in multiple different ways is making a better avenue for more businesses in Caldwell. And I think this might be one of those ways we can do it. I know my business is directly on the tracks. I constantly, as Tracy pointed out, have to silence my phones, stop conversations, and I can bet that not one of you has been walking around downtown Caldwell having a conversation where you had to pause and wait for a train and wait for those sounds to stop while you're doing it. So I think this is a good start, but I point out that there's a lot of, I agree with the fact that there's a lot of things that we definitely need to work on here in Caldwell, the parking being one of them. I bring that up constantly, talking to various people in the community, and a lot of investors and business owners bring that up too. If they're going to come down here and invest, what does Caldwell have planned to fix that? That cannot be fixed overnight. That cannot be fixed just even in this, but it needs to be pointed out that, yes, it's an issue, and hopefully we can work towards it. I guess, yeah, at that point, I don't really have much more because everything has kind of been said, but I do want to say I am in favor of this.
Any questions from council? Just to further, you guys also have a unique perspective. You see a lot of traffic on 21st. What is your thoughts on the pedestrian gates that have been mentioned tonight?
Well, speaking to what happened, unfortunately, my business did catch what happened at that accident, and police did show up. Those horns were blaring nonstop, and it didn't stop that gentleman from deciding that he wanted to turn around to pick up his cigarettes. That's what he stopped and turned around for. One that, based on a right decision, he rushed across those tracks. When the horns go, it doesn't exactly deter people. A lot of the accidents that do happen is because people they're impatient. So it does come down to personal responsibility, and I hate to say it that way. I wish that these things didn't happen. People should value their lives more than that. And the more we can put in the way to stop them, people drive with their stereos going constantly. I did my own research. The vast majority of these accidents that happen when there are not crossings, happen in areas that don't have the signals. And I have friends that live there, and they tell me these horror stories. So I feel like putting in more barriers is a good thing in any way. I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of maybe pedestrian barrier on specifically on 21st. Those are areas where we have a lot of traffic with the new parking lot there going across there. Yes, all of those people walk right through my parking lot. There are thousands. And so maybe a good compromise might be looking at that specific one for those big, large events. I don't necessarily want the city to incur more costs. I don't like that at all. A lot of the decisions that I have to look at and make, that's a big issue for me too, is those extra costs. So, but at the same time, safety is important. One thing that didn't get brought up is, like when I talked about the horn, is on 22nd. My cameras caught video of a girl, horn started going for the train. There's not even a crossing at 22nd. But a young girl decided that she was going to try and beat a train and decided to Dukes of Hazzard jump over the train tracks into our new parking lot there. So barriers aside, accidents still unfortunately do happen because people are people, so.
All right, thank you for that. Looks like we have time, and I'll ask council, we have about 10 more speakers. Do we want to stop it?
I would like to stay in here, everybody. I know we've gone off on some pretty major side conversations that have taken up a lot of time, so I'm happy to stay.
And just to clarify for a workshop before we continue, not all council has to be present. In fact, even an elected official doesn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just a city official. I will stay longer to hear everyone else. But if other council members, because we scheduled it till 8, you would feel free to leave if need be. Okay, Councilor Tillmont will have to leave. And this will be on the record too, so council can go back and listen to it if need be.
Mayor, 10 more people is 30 minutes. Could you run through the list real quick and see if all of them wish to testify?
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Will Anderson. Would you, I'm not going to call up yet, but do you still want to testify?
Very briefly.
Oh.
I didn't prepare any remarks.
Okay, Glenn, just real quick. Glenn, Coach? Oh. Do we just want to go ahead and call him up? Just real quick. Dave Moore?
Yes.
Okay. Mark Pemble? He wrote sure, he's in support. Julie Warwick?
I'll take a minute.
Okay. Melinda Garcia? I'll take a minute. Carlos Hernandez? Jen Erdley? Jen Erdley, and TJ Erdley. Are they both? So that takes it down. Yeah, so it's up to you guys.
Eric, I signed up to speak. I can't come for all night.
Okay. Here, we'll, can we just? 12, 15 minutes. Yeah. All right, Melinda, do you want to go ahead and?
Hi, I'm Melinda Garcia, and I live on 14th and Cleveland, so I am definitely in the train zone. And as an individual, and along with my neighbors, often are trying to speak over the sound of the train or watching the train rattle things in our house. And part of living in the historic district is the charm of the train tracks. But I think that it's a no-brainer for our community to take care of each other by having the quiet zones implemented. I think it's got some real health benefits for people who live near the tracks. It seems like it would increase investments of people being able to infill and live closer, and I think that has some good tax benefits and will cut down sprawl. But I think that it's pretty clear it would be safer for people that are inclined to try and beat the train, and those who are going to find a way around it are going to find a way around it. That Dukes of Hazzard story was kind of upsetting. So it seems like that we can never completely get rid of that, but if we can make it safer for people, I think it's a great investment for our community, and I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Will Anderson.
I didn't know I was signing up to make remarks, but I'm Will Anderson, 213-260 Lena, Caldwell, not in the city. I moved over here about 15 years ago, and before that time, I was over in Boise. Before that time, Caldwell did not have a good reputation. And with the event of Roger Brooks coming, this city has just come huge distance. And so I'm a big proponent of Roger Brooks and his plans. And one part of that, which very much interests me, is his pathway. I believe, well, I can't think of the name he calls it, but anyway, the pathway down Indian Creek all the way to the fairgrounds. It's a wonderful thing. One aspect of that is a underpass, a pedestrian underpass around that parking lot that everybody keeps worrying about the parking in, and with reason. But anyway, the underpass there would handle a huge part of this issue, and I am very much in favor of the quiet zones. I think they'll put this city leaps and bounds of where ahead of where it is now. So, thank you.
Any questions from council? Do you want to go ahead and call? State your name, please.
Make a little introduction before we start my time. I applaud you gentlemen and lady for the job you have to do. It's not easy. You have to make the tough decisions. But you have to be responsible. You have to be judiciary responsibility. In other words, if we decide to grow Caldwell to the next level, What's the most important question? We have to have the money to do that. So, you guys have tough questions, tough and decisions to make. So I suggest that we use wisdom, we use your experience, and don't forget about safety. Okay, thank you.
Anything from council? Thank you for
That
your
was my
comments.
introduction, that's
Oh,
what I
sorry.
want to say. Okay. So,
All right, we'll give you a few extra seconds. Go ahead.
thank you. If you can reset my clock. So, I want to appeal to you people tonight, factually and emotionally. My brother-in-law, 3 years ago, was killed by a train just west of Caldwell. He was driving a concrete truck, or not a concrete truck, but a semi for Nampa Asphalt and Paving. Okay? We got the phone call from Mr. Woods, know him personally. Had to explain to my wife that your brother was in an accident with a train. What hospital is he in? No, he's dead. That train, because of the weight and the speed that these freight trains go through Caldwell, are deadly weapons. Now, Scott, you can raise your eyes. You can believe or not what I'm saying here. Back to the legal issue with Oscar. The first time a person gets dragged through Caldwell, mangled, a mess, a total mess, a bloody mess, a creative defense attorney will find and define negligence. Mark my word, this could be really ugly. Now, we have created, up to this point, the previous administration, a safe Caldwell with growth. Diane makes a good common sense comment. We did that without a safety zone. Think about it. The safety zone will benefit financially a lot of businesses. I could, as a professional witness for the PUC years ago, I dealt with Union Pacific. They're not interested in safety. It's all about the bottom dollar. We tried to get a gate out here where my brother-in-law was killed. Not enough deaths. They're not going to do it. Not going to spend the money. So instead of making financial decisions based on conflict of interest in business decisions, because all these guys are all on the railroad tracks and in support of it.
Just real quick, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds since we get interrupted. Sorry.
I think we really need to concentrate on safety here. Why do we have to give up safety in a quiet zone for financial gain? Who's going to gain from this? These guys along the railroad tracks sell their businesses, they will gain. The residents and the people that cross those tracks every day will not benefit. I stand for questions.
Any questions from council? All right, thank you, sir, for your comments. We appreciate it. Glenn, wait, sorry. Dave Moore. Let's get Glenn up here. Sorry. Thank you. Would you please come forward?
Mr. Mayor, council members, just so everybody knows, this is former Canyon County Commissioner Glenn Koch.
Thank you, Glenn Koch, for coming here tonight.
It's fun to brag. I'll be 100 years old this year. I own 7 properties in downtown Caldwell that are under the LID assessment, 7. So I have a vital interest in what is happening and what has happened to downtown Caldwell. I used to have a business down on 5th and Main Street, close to the railroad track. One glorious Monday morning, I think it was, there was a huge explosion, just earth-shattering. I knew instinctively what it was. A train had smashed into a semi-truck. And you can imagine the devastation that caused. I'll never forget that. I'm just wondering, we're worried about money, but have we placed a price on a life? Have we placed a price on a living person? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council? Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. And congratulations on making it to 100. We all, I would hope to aspire to that someday. Dave Moore.
David Moore, 711 East Denver, Caldwell. I'm the guy that I think my friend Ron Dillon said that I voted for a $20,000 a month payment to Roger Brooks, which nobody on our Urban Renewal Commission did that. So once again, things get taken out of proportion, out of context. As I go through this, I've lived down on that side of the tracks down there for 7-8 years and have lived here my whole entire life, over 50 years. Safety, I think safety is the biggest thing that I want to instill. I've lost more than anybody here in this room tonight with my family through an accident. So I don't want to see anybody have an accident. I don't want to have any anxiety over any of these kind of meetings and discussion of accidents. So that's important to me. City employee Bruce, he talked about it being more safe. So I went down on my bike and I walked every intersection from 4th down to Linden, and I looked at that, and I think a quiet zone would be an improvement to those intersections and some arms. I think it'd be money well spent, 230-some thousand, and we have, what, 400,000 allocated. So I think it's a necessity. You know, the amount of money that's been invested in downtown with urban renewal, what is it, $350 million has been invested in this downtown area to get it to where it is today. As Mrs. Casper said, I think that's important. I've worked down here. I've lived on Main. I've lived across from the plaza for 5 years of my life. I've worked down here for 4 years of my life with the bank. It's a disruption to hear that train. It's not nostalgic, it's a disruption. People that are trying to put buildings in, they're having to put more of a barrier in order to not have to put somebody on a pause if you're on a conference call. So there's an expense to that noise. As I live across the street, across the railroad tracks, gosh, last night I wrote it all down and it woke me up at 10 after 12. That train sets and the horn goes off every 15 minutes for an hour straight. And it blares for 10 to 15 minutes. So it's a disruption. The noise pollution that's down there, I don't know how people can get up and go to work. I don't know how people can study, kids can study, students can study. There's just so many things there with the impact of that noise. So I just hope that we can come together and leave here tonight and not stretch things or stretch the truth or stretch the facts and go forward. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from council? Thank you.
Not one question. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I call Will Anderson yet?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Got to check it off. Carlos Hernandez.
Well, hello everyone. It's good to see you again. My name is Carlos Hernandez. I live on 3906 Bryan Avenue, and I am here in strong support of the quiet zone. I think that it's not just about reducing noise, it's about smart, long-term planning for a city that's growing and deserves infrastructure and reflects this growth. I'm also, I sit on the parking committee, and so I'm so excited to be working with President Register as we help the city find these parking spots and move our city in a positive way forward. So a quiet zone requires upgrades to the railroad crossing, improved gates, medians, we've been talking about that. These aren't just cosmetic changes, they are permanent safety improvements that protect our residents for decades to come. They reduce accidents at these crossings, and they signal to developers, businesses, and most importantly, families that are locating and are here in Caldwell that the city is investing in itself. Quiet zones also directly support economic development. Neighborhoods near railroad corridors that today suffer from horn blasts, as Dave Moore was talking about for hours, become more livable, more attractive, and more valuable. That means stronger property tax revenue, which we want, more local investments, and a better quality of life for everyone in our community. Now, I want to talk to all of you. You are elected to represent the residents and citizens of Caldwell, all of our citizens. Not just the ones who show up and are the loudest at these meetings, not just the ones who send you 1 million emails, sorry that you get your 30 emails a day, but everyday residents who are awoken at 2 a.m., who can't enjoy their backyards, and who have been quietly hoping someone would do something about it. The loudest voice in the room is not always the most representative one. I urge you to look at the full picture, the surveys, the community, conversation, the residents who support this, but aren't always able to come to these meetings, who don't always have the time, and sometimes don't have the comfortability to be able to stand at a podium to connect with you. So I believe pursuing this quiet zone is the right direction for Caldwell's future. I ask you to move forward with confidence and trust that the broader community is behind you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right. Thank you for that. There's a James that lives at a 724 address. I can't make out the last name. Yes, she's down at the bottom. We're gonna finish. So James is not here. Carlos is done. Mark Pemble. Mark's not here. All right. Just make sure. All right, Julie. This will be our last one for the evening.
Hi, guys. I'll keep it short so you can get out of here. Julie Warwick. I'm going to come at it from 3 different perspectives. My first is as the Executive Director of Caldwell Meals on Wheels. I do agree that pedestrian gates need to be added there. And I spoke to some of our folks that receive meals that live at the Belmont Apartments who frequently have to walk across those tracks, and it's frightening for them. Some of them don't hear well. I could witness that because we'll knock and knock and knock on those doors before they finally come. So, you know, the train whistle helps, but not a lot. But the pedestrian gates would be a roadblock right in their way that would tell them, don't proceed. So I think that's important. I'm in support of the quiet zone as long as we have those pedestrian gates. Number 2, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of an urban renewal commissioner who says that anything that we can do to help businesses and property owners in the downtown area with property values, which increases tax base, is good, with encouraging investment that folks don't want to do in areas that are really noisy, because although HUD doesn't prohibit it within a certain amount of space from the tracks, builders have to use different building materials, different windows that are more sound resistant. So it's important to do this to help with all of that. I didn't write anything, you can probably tell. And third, I'll come at it with a personal viewpoint. I live at 13th and Arthur. That's about 1.5 blocks from the tracks. I've lived in Caldwell 45 years. 39 of them have been at that address. It honestly doesn't bother me, except in the summertime or the springtime when we have the windows open and you can't hear on the telephone and you can't hear the TV when it's going. being outside is a little problematic, but you get used to that after a while. The one bad thing I said, as raising a daughter who grew up in that house, was born and raised there, she's now 29. The worst thing that it did to her was the fact that she can now sleep through any alarm clock, anytime, and it does not wake her up. So, I don't know if that's good or bad at this point. But I'm in support of the quiet zone. It's another improvement that Caldwell needs to make along our path to making our city greater, and I think we should definitely do it.
Thank you for that. Any questions from council? Thank you. Bruce, do you have just a moment to come back up, Mr. Mills? Just real quick, could you restate, there's been a lot of folks talk about they would be in support of pedestrian crossing gates. I mean, obviously that's something we'd have to look at budgetary wise, but what was the price again on that and the feasibility of that?
There are different types, but the automated gates that actually come down, just like the automated gates over the road, are $200,000 to $300,000 per crossing. There are other much less expensive options of using fences to offset. I could send some sketches or something, but to do the actual automated gates that come down at $200,000 to $300,000 per crossing.
Okay, any questions on that price? Councilor Denver?
Mr. Mayor, Bruce, thank you. So regardless of whether or not you do a pedestrian crossing or not, these traffic meetings are still necessary. They're still the key component of the quiet zone.
Yes, it's a requirement.
And so even if we were to compartmentalize what's done today, or what we're talking about today, the traffic medians, that would still have to be done with the pedestrian crossings also. We couldn't just throw out the traffic medians in lieu of a pedestrian crossing.
I don't quite understand. I'm sorry. I mean, basically, we have approval of the quiet zone with the medians. Okay. Pedestrian changes are not a requirement of the quiet zone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And just to finish on that, so if we move forward, if council moves forward, because obviously the legislative body, is this permanent, and are you familiar, like, could it be undone, right? Are we setting something permanent in place? In addition, do you know any municipalities that have gone backwards, or that they all stayed the course with it?
I don't know. I don't, with 1,000 different ones, I couldn't say if somebody went backwards, but I'm not aware of any that have gone backwards.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I know it's been a long night, but we did get through everybody. We are going to be back on it at 5 to 8 tomorrow. We do have one counselor that's not going to be able to attend, Counselor Allgood. And just so everyone's aware, when we scheduled this, can we hold it? No, we're not finished quite yet. Just so we know, when we scheduled this, there was some conflicts on getting the messaging out and scheduling the meeting. So for any counselors that were not able to attend, I take responsibility if it didn't meet their schedule. But we thank them all for being here tonight on a Thursday night, and those that are going to be here tomorrow night, and for you that came here tonight and the news. Thank you. And with that, workshop's over.